Chapter 163. Ikaro's arrival actually helped Wu Yin quite a bit. One had to know that with a glutton at home, the speed at which one could cook was no match for the speed at which the glutton ate. As a result, one had to hold the kitchen knife for as long as the glutton was hungry, while the glutton was hungry for almost 24 hours a day. Now that he has Ikaros as his helper, Wu Yin's burden has been reduced by quite a bit. Even if Ikaros isn't that proficient in cooking, he has to admit that her learning ability is quite strong. Wu Yin is glad that he has free time, but at the same time, he started to feel a chill in his heart. Just Astria alone is enough to torture him to this extent. What if one day he's in the mood to summon that Yuko from Jinsokyo? This is the first time Wu Yin thought girls aren't cute anymore. Wu Yin's thoughts drifted far away, but he was pulled back to reality by the ringing of his phone. He suspiciously picked up the phone and saw the words Mikoto popping up on the screen. Speaking of which, this phone was bought by Mikoto for Wu Yin. Wu Yin didn't have any other money in Academy City aside from the gold he brought from the Spalier world. Compared to the pitiful Wu Yin, Mikoto, being the third LVL 5 ranker in Academy City, received the biggest subsidy in Academy City. She couldn't even be bothered to count the numbers in her bank account. When she heard that Wu Yin didn't have a phone, she generously gave one to Wu Yin. This made Wu Yin, who wanted to buy one the next day, feel like he's living off a woman for the first time. Of course, there's another big reason why Wu Yin didn't really want this phone. Wu Yin looked at the pink Kita limited edition phone that kept ringing in his hand. He felt a lot of pressure. Sighing helplessly, Wu Yin picked up the phone. "Hello, Mikoto. It took you so long to pick up the phone. How busy are you?" Mikoto's slightly unhappy voice sounded from the other side of the phone. Wu Yin was speechless. Was he supposed to tell her that he was imagining things? Elder sister, that scumbag must be doing something shameful. Maybe he's harming some underage girl this time. Elder sister, why do you have to lower yourself and talk to that scumbag on the phone? You even want to invite him. The tender voice was filled with contempt, disdain, hatred, and jealousy. Even if he used his knees to think, Wu Yin would know who this person was. She really didn't forget to slander him all the time. Considering that there would be no end to this entanglement, Wu Yin decisively pretended not to hear. "Well, what's the matter?" "Mikoto." On the other side of the phone, Mikoto let out an obvious humph. It wasn't clear if she was dissatisfied with Wu Yin or a certain black and white guy. She hesitated for a while before speaking in a soft voice. "Are you free today?" "Oh." Hearing this, Wu Yin was surprised. He teased with interest. "Of course I'm free. I just didn't expect Mikoto to finally take the initiative to ask me out on a date." "No, of course not. It's not a date." A certain black and white creature yelled again. "Why would elder sister go on a date with a scumbag like you?" "Elder sister belongs to me, Kuriko. If you want to go on a date, you should go on a date with me." "Kuriko?" Wu Yan's expression turned awkward. He didn't know what to say. He also didn't know where Mikoto and Kuriko called him. After Kuriko revealed her preferences, the other side of the phone became noisy. "Kuriko, what are you talking about?" Wu Yin could already imagine that Mikoto was angry from being looked at with curiosity by the passers-by. "Kuriko, I'm not talking nonsense. Elder sister will always belong to me, Kuriko." Elder sister, let's just ignore that scumbag. Just me and elder sister." "Ah." The strange laughter didn't only make Mikoto's hair stand on end. It also made Wu Yan's expression more and more awkward. "I say, are you guys still talking to me on the phone? If this goes on, Mikoto will definitely call Kuriko back in anger. When that happens, the phone in Mikoto's hand won't survive." Thus, Wu Yin quickly cut her off. Mikoto, why did you call me?" "Oh, right." Mikoto finally remembered something important. "If you're free, come to the restaurant we went to last time. Bring Astria with you." "Oh, so it's not a date," Wu Yin said regretfully. He wanted to go on another thrilling date like last time. Bastard. Mikoto was probably reminded of their last date. She was a little embarrassed and angry. "Bring Astria over here right now." "Got it. I'll bring Ikaros over as well." "You found Ikaros?" Mikoto flinched, then she asked in surprise. "Yep, just wait over there. She'll be there soon." "Scumbag, You better fall into a stinking ditch and disappear from elder sister's sight forever. Kuriko's resentful voice sounded in front of Mikoto. Looks like her impression of Wu Yin couldn't get any worse. Kuriko. Mikoto hung up after yelling. Wu Yin looked at the phone in his hand and shook his head with a bitter smile. He glanced at Astria, who was eating beside him, and his bitter smile deepened. Academy City School District 7, a certain restaurant. Wu Yin walked into the restaurant with two angeloids with great figures. He habitually endured the passionate gazes of the passers-by. Wu Yin saw Mikoto and Kuriko the moment he entered. To Wu Yin's surprise, there wasn't only Kuriko on Mikoto's side. There was also Waharu Kaori, who he met once in 177th branch. There was also another familiar figure that he's never met before. She had shoulder-length black hair, a 5-petal white plum flower ornament on her head. She wore the same uniform as Waharu Kaori. His first impression of her is that she's energetic and cheerful. Her figure is completely different from Waharu's. She's the best of the four, a very cute and beautiful girl. Wu Yin recognized her at first glance. Zuetian Ruko. She's in the same grade and class as Waharu Kaori. She's Waharu Kaori's best friend. Her ability is LV6 Ascending Current. She's Zuetian Ruko's strongest ability. Wu Yin pulled out a series of introductions in his mind. He looked at Zuetian Ruko with a respectful and admiring gaze. After all, she has an ability that Wu Yin can't be more envious and greedy. He can't even exchange it in the system. Yin, over here. With two super beauties following behind him, Wu Yin couldn't keep a low profile, even if he wanted to. Mikoto noticed the three of them and quickly waved her hand. Mikoto's voice rang out, and Kuriko immediately shot Wu Yin a sharp and resentful glare. Wu Yan's hand froze when he was about to respond to her. Waharu Kaori looked at him with surprise, and Ruko looked at him with curiosity. Yo, Sister Mikoto, I'm here. Astria's eyes lit up when she saw Mikoto. She raised one hand and put the other hand beside her mouth. She shouted happily at Mikoto. Her cute and cheerful personality was on full display. Waharu Kaori and Ruko looked at Astria and Ikaros behind Wu Yin. Their eyes flashed with unconcealable surprise. Even Kuriko, who only saw Astria once, was captivated by her beauty. Mikoto was different. She was feeling awkward. If Mikoto and Astria were to stand side by side, at least 99.5 out of 100 people would think Astria is the older sister. The remaining half would be the rare species with unique eyesight. However, Mikoto and Hinajiku have been taking good care of her for a long time, so Astria decided to call them sisters. She would often call them sisters in public, causing Hinajiku and Mikoto to feel awkward. Mikoto started regretting her decision. Why did she ask Wu Yin to bring Astria along? Chapter 164. Wu Yin sat down with Ikaros and Astria. Mikoto, Kuriko, Waharu, and Ruko all had different expressions on their faces. Wu Yin felt awkward. There are 7 people at the table, 6 beautiful girls, and he is the only male. Mikoto also felt awkward for a while before she decided to ignore it. Astria is like a little sister to her who needs to be taken care of. Her tea-colored pupils turned to Ikaros, and a flash of joy flashed through her eyes. Ikaros, I've finally found you. Where have you been all this while? Ikaros looked at Wu Yin and stuttered. I've been looking for Master, so... Asking Ikaros to lie is really too much for her. Can't help it. She can't just tell anyone about her being in the dark department. Wu Yin already talked to Ikaros about this, so she knows what to do. However, it seems like it's going to be hard for Ikaros to hide something from the public. Mikoto looked at Ikaros in shock. To be honest, she has never seen Ikaros act like this before. Ikaros probably knew that her acting wasn't that great, so she quickly turned to Wu Yin for help. Wu Yin put down his drink with a bitter smile and looked at Zuetian Ruko. Hey, new face, you are? Zuetian Ruko also looked at Wu Yin and greeted Wu Yin energetically. Hello, I am Zuetian Ruko, a first-year student of Zuetian Middle School. My ability is... There's no need to introduce my ability. Wu Yin, who is familiar with the plot, knows Zuetian Ruko's ability is a pain in her heart. He interrupted Zhuotian Ruko's introduction of her ability. That kind of thing, it doesn't matter what you do. Wu Yin chuckled as he told Zhuotian Ruko the same thing. Zhuotian Ruko's eyes flashed with a strange light. Her beautiful big eyes stared at Wu Yan's smiling face. She was stunned and didn't react. Instead, Hazy snorted. What do you mean by it doesn't matter? It's just because you're LV0 that you don't want to talk about it. Hearing Wu Yan's level 0, Zhuotian Ruko was stunned. Mikoto smiled bitterly. How could she not know why Wu Yan was level 0? Of course, she didn't know that Wu Yan's ability had been upgraded. In response to Kuriko's sarcasm, Wu Yan didn't bother to explain. Kuriko was currently vexed over the fact that my dear Wani-sama invited a scumbag who might be a love rival. If Wu Yan were to get involved, he would definitely give this Yuri girl, who was likely to be corrupted by Mikoto, an excuse to get rid of him. When Blackie saw that Wu Yan had no reaction, he curled his lips in boredom and put down the spearhead against Wu Yan. After all, it was not her style to take advantage of another's sore spot. Hello everyone, I'm Astria. Astria's cheerful introduction attracted everyone's attention. I'm Ikaros. The other girls expressed their curiosity towards beauties like Ikaros and Astria. After some introductions, they got to know each other. While Kuriko, Ruko, and Waharu were curious about Ikaros and Astria, Wu Yan sneaked a glance at Mikoto. Mikoto, you didn't call me out just to introduce some beauties to me, right? Mikoto immediately stepped on Wu Yan's foot under the table. Wu Yan almost cried out in pain. You bastard, all you think about is that kind of thing. I really don't know what your brain is made of. Fine, what's the matter? Wu Yan rubbed his sore foot and looked at Mikoto seriously. You look like you have something on your mind, and you still want to pretend to be normal. Mikoto slightly lowered her head and bitterly smiled. Why can't I hide it from you? Wu Yan rolled his eyes and smiled proudly. Of course, what can you hide from me? Don't you know who your husband is? Who is? Mikoto blushed and rolled her eyes at Wu Yan. You better be serious. If you don't tell me what's going on, I'm not going to be serious. You? Mikoto glared at Wu Yan. This is too shameless. This person. After some hesitation, Mikoto whispered. That group of scientists came looking for me a few days ago. Yan narrowed his eyes as a glint flashed in his eyes. Then, they probably came looking for you because of that absolute ability user evolution plan, right? Mikoto turned around and looked at the others. Seeing that they weren't paying attention to her and Wu Yan's conversation, she nodded and said with a bit of melancholy, Yeah, they wanted me to provide my DNA. You didn't do it right? Even though he knew that Mikoto wouldn't give out her DNA, Wu Yan was still worried. Of course not. Mikoto's voice was unusually loud when she said this. That's right. After the incident with her sisters, how can she just casually give out her DNA? That's good. Wu Yan touched the biocontainment device on his wrist. Mikoto also looked at it. She knows that her sisters are inside. Seeing Mikoto's expression, Wu Yan smiled and comforted her. It'll be over soon. Don't worry. Mikoto looked at Wu Yan, and for some reason, her heart relaxed a bit. She nodded and said seriously, If necessary, I'll make a move. There's no more worry in her eyes, only determination. Wu Yan also knows that with Mikoto's personality, there's no way she'll just sit there and wait for him to save all her sisters. If that's the case, the guilt she'll feel towards her sisters will completely crush her. Maybe in her heart. Even if it's just a little bit of help, she'll do it with her life. She's just that stupid. Wu Yan smiled and pondered for a bit. He then said to Mikoto, The most important thing now is the sisters' safety. There's still a lot of sisters. They can't take care of all of them. But later, when the number of sisters starts to decrease, they'll be able to focus on waiting for them. And that's when you have to make a move, Mikoto. So let's wait a bit. Hearing Wu Yan's words, Mikoto can only nod unwillingly. At the same time, she swore to herself that she'll play a role in the future. Compared to the original, where she only knows how to blindly work and shoulder all the burdens by herself, the current Mikoto is undoubtedly very happy. At least, Mikoto won't hold on to the hope of saving her sisters like she did in the original. This time, with Wu Yan, Saving her sisters is no longer just a matter of hope. When the two of them were done talking about their own matters and turned around, they were stunned. The five girls who were chatting back and forth a moment ago were all sitting there quietly. Their gazes were all on Wu Yin and Makoto. Wu Yin and Makoto could even see Kuriko's lowered head. Her expression was dark and gloomy. Wu Yin laughed embarrassedly. "WH, why are you all looking at us?" Ruko looked at one, then looked at the other, and suddenly realized something. "So, Wu Yin, Senpai and Misaka Senpai are a couple." Makoto's face instantly turned red. She shrank back. Her two hands shook with all her might. She stuttered, No. Who's a couple with him?" Wu Yin looked at her helplessly. Even if he doesn't mind her tsundere behavior, isn't it more suspicious? Sure enough, Kuriko, who is familiar with Makoto's personality, immediately went berserk when she saw Makoto's expression. "I'm going to stuff you into the ground, you scum." Kuriko roared, her whole body emitting a strange aura. She hysterically pounced on Wu Yin. Wu Yin and Makoto were shocked. Just as Makoto was about to give Kuriko an electric shock, a voice suddenly came from the table in front. "I say, you guys, so noisy." Chapter 165. When everyone turned to look at the source of the sound, two of them were stunned. One of them is Ikaros. Her petite face froze for a bit before returning to normal. The other one is Wu Yin. He isn't as calm as Ikaros. His whole face froze for a while before turning into a stunned expression. A tall girl with long brown hair, a petite girl with short brown hair, a powerless girl with short black hair, and a short girl with long blonde hair. Item, 4-man team. Mujino Shizuri. Kinuhata Sai. Takitsubu Riku. Frenda. What a coincidence. I can't believe we ran into each other like this. Wu Yin instantly covered his face with his hands, looking at the sky with a speechless expression. Although he doesn't know why he would run into these four girls from Item, it's obvious that they aren't here specifically for him. If she was here specifically for him, with Mujino Shizuri's personality, she would have launched an atomic meltdown at him. She wouldn't be standing there and yelling something like it's so noisy. And from the looks of it, Mujino Shizuri still didn't recognize his identity. But that doesn't mean no one else did. On the side, Takitsubu Riku's eyes were fixed on Wu Yin. From the looks of it, she probably recognized Wu Yin's AIM field and recognized his identity. Unbeknownst to him, Takitsubu Riku was actually shocked as well. Because, with her ability, there were actually two AIM intruders from that night. That's right, too. One was the black-haired, black-eyed boy. The other was the tea-haired girl. How is this possible? Takitsubu Riku's seemingly tired face was now covered with a layer of astonishment. One must know that the superpowers of Academy City had never been exactly the same, because the individual who created the superpowers would never be the same. Just like how there wouldn't be two identical people in this world, individuals' reality wouldn't be the same because everyone has their own perception, their own way of thinking. The difference in individuals' reality would lead to the difference in superpowers. Because of this, Takitsubu Riku's ability could be used to track and identify targets. However, today, the two identical AMIs that appeared in front of her completely messed her up. Of course, she didn't know that Wu Yin's superpower was indirectly obtained from Makoto. It had nothing to do with personal reality. AIM is a hidden manifestation of an ability. Every ability has its own aim, and since Wu Yin and Makoto's abilities are the same, they naturally have the same aim. As for why Wu Yin and Makoto had the same goal, and why Takitsubu Riku would directly set her sights on Wu Yin, there was no need to explain. Putting aside the fact that Makoto's figure is completely different from the one from that night, at least Takitsubu Riku doesn't think that the tea-haired girl would be a Yuri girl who would tease them to death. Knowing that he can't hide anymore, Wu Yin decided to be magnanimous. Looking at Takitsubu Riku, who was staring at him, he smiled at her. Takitsubu Riku was startled and quickly lowered her head. She didn't forget that the other party still has a full-body photo of her, and is a naked one. On the other side, Mujino Shizuri, Kinuhata Sai, and Frenda didn't recognize Wu Yin, but they definitely recognized Ikaros. Ikaros was once a newbie in Item. How could they not recognize her? It's you. When Mujino Shizuri saw Ikaros, she froze for a moment before a murderous aura crept up her face. She sneered and said, I didn't think a traitor like you would dare to appear in front of me. Makoto and the others who were planning to apologize were all stunned. They didn't understand how things turned out like this. Only Astria stood up and shouted at Mujino Shizuri. Hey, don't talk about Ikaros senpai like that. Seeing how Astria dared to stand up and talk to her like that, Mujino Shizuri's face darkened. Her anger after seeing Ikaros came pouring out, and she fired an atomic meltdown at Astria. Everyone was shocked. Careful! Astria was shocked when she saw a beam of light coming at her. Astria narrowed her eyes, and just as she was about to block the weak beam of light, an electric bolt flashed by and hit the atomic meltdown. Atomic meltdowns collided with taser gun. A bright light burst out. After a while, the atomic meltdown and taser gun canceled each other out. To be precise, they twisted together and both disappeared. Electricity. Mujino Shizuri's reaction to the electric shock was not small. Her entire face turned incomparably gloomy. This was natural, because the rat that humiliated her was using electric ability. However, this electric bolt wasn't released by Wuyin. Makoto put down her hand that was surrounded by electricity and looked at Mujino Shizuri, who was also looking at her. You attacked with the intention of killing Astria, didn't you? Even though Makoto's expression was normal, those who knew her well knew that this was the only time she was truly angry. Mujino Shizuri frowned when she saw that it was a girl. Even though she didn't see the intruder's face that night, from the figure, voice, and the way the intruder fought, it was obvious that it was a male. In other words, this girl wasn't the intruder from that night. Mujino Shizuri's heart flashed with unwillingness, but at the same time, she let out an imperceptible sigh of relief. Answer me. Seeing Mujino Shizuri keeping quiet, the electricity on Makoto's body started flowing out like water from a broken dam. Soon, Makoto's entire body was covered in electricity. LV5. Behind Mujino Shizuri, Kinuha Tasai and Frinda exclaimed. It was fine when Makoto didn't use her ability, but once she used it, it was definitely not something LV4 could do. What they didn't know was that Makoto had a habit of holding back before a battle. To outsiders, and even Kuriko, Makoto used her full strength, but to Wu Yin, Ikaros, and Astria, Makoto didn't use her full strength. This was only natural. After all, Makoto was no longer the newly summoned Tier 7. Now, she's already a Tier 8. Mujino Shizuri's eyes lit up. Third railgun. Makoto didn't say anything, but her brown eyes stared at Mujino Shizuri. She looked like she was going to start a fight at any moment. Seeing this, everyone finally reacted. Kuriko's face turned serious as she stood beside Makoto. Using your ability to harm others in public has violated the rules. As a member of the disciplinary committee, I have the right to arrest you. Disciplinary committee? Mujino Shizuri curled her lips in disdain. Just a small organization like you who only knows how to run around dares to say you want to arrest me? Interesting, you. Blackie's face darkened. What she hated the most was people looking down on her status as a conduct and discipline committee member. At this moment, she had already reached into her pocket to take out her conduct and discipline committee member armband to arrest Mujino Shizuri. Mujino Shizuri didn't even look at her. Instead, she turned to Makoto and laughed excitedly. I didn't expect to meet you here. Third place. Just nice. I'm very unhappy that you've been sitting on my head. Today, let me see why you're ranked one place higher than me. What? Kuriko, Ruko, and Wiharu exclaimed in unison. Your fourth place, Meltdowner. Makoto was surprised by this as well. You're Meltdowner. That's me. Mujino Shizuri laughed. She looked at Makoto for a while before turning to Ikaros. Her eyes were filled with killing intent. Let me deal with this traitor first, then I'll deal with you. After that, another beam of pure white light shot towards Ikaros. Chapter 166. The beam of Meltdowner illuminated everyone's stunned faces. Before anyone could react, it blasted into Ikaros' body. Ikaros! Mikoto and the rest screamed, while Mujino Shizuri laughed coldly, but she quickly froze. The meltdown atom suddenly dispersed and didn't cause any damage to Ikaros. That's because in front of Ikaros, there's a translucent blue crystal barrier erected. Mujino Shizuri narrowed her eyes. I almost forgot. You traitor's ability can block my meltdown. Mikoto and the rest breathed a sigh of relief. Mikoto was secretly angry at herself for overreacting. As one of Wu Yan's summons, she knew Ikaros' strength better than anyone else. Ikaros is much stronger than her. It's just that she forgot that Ikaros is a much stronger existence than she is due to her concern earlier. But that didn't stop Mikoto's anger from rising. You bastard! Mikoto clenched her fists tightly. The electricity crackling all over her body could be heard. How dare you try to harm my friend in front of me? Astria's crimson-red eyes stared at Mujino Shizuri. A stream of data flashed through her eyes. Mujino Shizuri, who was looking at Ikaros and Mikoto, felt a chill run down her spine. Astria is a lot stronger than Mikoto. Kuriko took out the disciplinary committee's armband from her pocket and said coldly to Mujino Shizuri, "How dare you harm someone in front of the disciplinary committee? Even if you're a LV5, I'll arrest you. You'll have to go through us first." Kinuha Tasai and Frenda, who were behind Mujino Shizuri, stepped forward and faced off against Kuriko and the rest. Both sides looked at each other, and the atmosphere became tense. Wait a minute. Why did it suddenly become like this? Ruko pulled Waharu's hand, not knowing what to do. There's a bunch of strong aptitude users there. There's even 2 LV5s. This isn't something she can interfere with. Early Spring's expression was also uncertain. She couldn't make up her mind whether or not she should call the branch office for support. Takitsubu Riku was the only one who stood behind Mujino Shizuri and the rest like an unrelated person. Firstly, her ability was not suitable for battle. Secondly, the person who was like a demon to them was right there. At this moment, Wu Yin had already returned. That's right, he had returned. No matter how you looked at it, this meeting was very unexpected. But no matter how unexpected it wasn't suitable for others to know about it. Otherwise, Academy City would definitely be filled with news about them tomorrow. Thus, the moment Mujino Shizuri and the others appeared, he quietly got up and used the name of the Conduct and Discipline Committee to disperse the people in the dining hall. The extras didn't have much suspicion either. They didn't care if Wu Yin was a member of the Disciplinary Committee or not. They only knew that if there was a fight between level 5s, they would definitely be implicated. They all ran away faster than rabbits. While Wu Yin ridiculed them, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. If this happened in his world, these people wouldn't even think of leaving. They would all run over to watch and cheer them on. When Wu Yin returned, the tense atmosphere dissipated a little. Mikoto retracted the electric current on her body. Mujino Shizuri, on the other hand, stared at Wu Yin without moving an inch. This is only natural. Now that the rest of the people here are all women, a man like Wu Yin standing out like this is naturally very conspicuous. Mujino Shizuri could see that the man in front of her was in cahoots with a third person, a man who appeared beside the traitor in her organization. Mujino Shizuri couldn't help but be suspicious of him. If one were to ask whom Mujino Shizuri hated the most right now, it would probably be Mikoto, the little brat who had always been ranked ahead of her. If one were to ask who she hated the most right now, it would undoubtedly be that damned rat from that night. Plus, for some reason, when Mujino Shizuri saw Wu Yan's appearance, her heart inexplicably became irritable. This caused Mujino Shizuri to look at Wu Yin with all kinds of annoyance. Of course, Wu Yin could see the hostility in Mujino Shizuri's eyes. Seeing this, Wu Yin could only roll his eyes. Forget it. Who told me to have a body that attracts hatred easily? Master. With Wu Yin by their side, Ikaros and Astria naturally returned to his side. When Ikaros and Astria called him master, Wu Yin knew something was wrong. As expected, Kinuha Tasai and Frenda's eyes widened as they looked at Wu Yin. They raised their little fingers and pointed at Wu Yin. Their mouths opened and closed, but they couldn't squeeze out a word. This wasn't the first time they heard the term master. That night, Ikaros called the intruder who took advantage of them this way. "It's you," Mujino Shizuri screamed. When Ikaros appeared, she was already unconscious, but she still heard Kinuhita Sai and the others report the situation. Wu Yin sighed. If it's a blessing, it's not a curse. If it's a curse, it can't be avoided. However, Wu Yin quickly smiled as if nothing happened. Even though he tried his best to avoid letting others know that he was the thief who stole his sisters, he wasn't afraid, even if he was exposed. "Yo, long time no see." Wu Yin greeted Mujino Shizuri in front of Mikoto and Kuriko's stunned expression. He acted as if nothing is going on and appeared very calm. "You guys know each other?" Mikoto frowned. Even though she knew that Wu Yin was stealing his sisters, she didn't know that Wu Yin had already crossed swords with Mujino Shizuri. "Even if it's someone you know, I won't show mercy." Kuriko also frowned. Before Wu Yin can say anything, Mujino Shizuri started giggling. Her giggling sound is especially sharp. "I know him. How can I not know him? I've been thinking about him these past few days." This ambiguous sentence came out of Mujino Shizuri's mouth. However, no one would think of the relationship between Wu Yin and Mujino Shizuri in that direction. Because when Mujino Shizuri said that sentence, it wasn't filled with affection or nostalgia. It was filled with hatred and killing intent. You guys, seeing this situation, everyone couldn't wrap their heads around it. Even Astria looked at the two of them in confusion. The laughter stopped abruptly. A pure white ball of light suddenly appeared around Mujino Shizuri and surrounded her tall and slender body. Sizzling sounds came from within. At this moment, no one doubted the destructive power of this ball of light. It was enough to destroy the entire cafeteria. "I will never let you go berserk and hurt anyone again." Kuriko saw that Mujino Shizuri was planning to use her ability to attack someone in front of the disciplinary committee member. She immediately reached under her skirt and pinched a few steel needles between her fingers. Mujino Shizuri still didn't look at Kuriko. Her eyes were filled with killing intent and hatred. They were locked onto Wu Yin. In the next second, she would launch her meltdown at him. Wu Yin glanced at Mujino Shizuri and shrugged. A few photos suddenly appeared in his hand. When they saw the photos, Mujino Shizuri, Kinuhita, Sai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku's expression changed drastically. Wu Yin casually flipped through the photos in his hand and muttered as if there was no one around. I didn't expect someone want to kill me. What should I do? If I die, it will be a pity that no one will be able to enjoy these beautiful photos." After saying that, Wu Yin smiled and looked at Mujino Shizuri. "Miss, don't you think it's a pity? Why don't you give me some time to upload these photos onto the internet before you kill me?" "You?" Mujino Shizuri's beautiful face contorted. Looking at Wu Yan's smile, her heart was filled with hatred. On the other hand, Kinuhita, Sai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku were shocked and nervous. How could they not know what's inside the picture when Wu Yin took it out at this time? If this gets out, they won't be able to face anyone anymore. Chapter 167. The tense atmosphere suddenly shifted to a strange direction when Wu Yin revealed the photo in his hand. Mujino Shizuri, who was so aggressive that she didn't even care about Kuriko and LV5 Mikoto, suddenly stopped. Her gloomy face wavered. Her companions also had a shocked look on their faces. Looking at Mujino Shizuri and the other three who didn't dare to act rashly, everyone felt that their brains weren't enough to comprehend the situation. "What's going on?" Ruko voiced out everyone's thoughts. Wu Yin maintained the smile on his face as he casually flipped through the photos. Mujino Shizuri, Kinuhita, Sai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku felt their hearts skip a beat. "You should be more careful. If this side leak, wouldn't our reputation be completely ruined?" "Damn rat." Mujino Shizuri angrily stopped the activation of her ability. Kuriko, Ruko, and Miharu heaved a sigh of relief when the destructive light orbs around her disappeared. After all, those light orbs were like sharp knives hanging over their heads. As long as they were hanging there, They couldn't help but be on edge, seeing Mujino Shizuri retracting her meltdowner. Wu Yin chuckled. With a wave of his hand, the picture disappeared, causing Mujino Shizuri, who was planning to snatch it from him, to die in her womb. Glancing at everyone coldly, Mujino Shizuri finally fixed her eyes on Wu Yin. It was as if she wanted to imprint Wu Yan's face in her mind. Don't be happy too early. Mujino Shizuri coldly looked at Wu Yin and said coldly, "Even if I can't deal with you now, someone else will." Hearing this, Wu Yan's smiling face sunk, and he frowned. Everyone who thought the matter was settled was also stunned. "What do you mean?" Mujino Shizuri grinned, but there wasn't much joy in her voice. "Do you think after ruining the higher-ups' plan, they would only ask us to deal with you?" Wu Yan's gaze sharpened. "You know about the plan?" The word plan made everyone scratch their heads, but Makoto was shocked. After all, she herself was involved in a higher-ups plan. The only plan Wu Yin could ruin in Academy City's higher-ups is the Absolute Ability User Evolution Plan. Makoto immediately turned her head to Mujino Shizuri's direction. While everyone else was confused by Wu Yin and Mujino Shizuri's words, only her and Ikaros knew what they were talking about. As for Astria's personality, she wasn't a reliable person. Wu's afraid that she would mess things up. That's why they didn't tell her the truth. At this moment, Makoto was completely silent. She didn't think that the fourth-ranked meltdown atom would be related to this matter. And from the looks of it, Wu Yin already had dealings with Mujino Shizuri. And it's because of this, combined with Mujino Shizuri's and Wu Yan's behavior, Makoto has a pretty good idea of what's going on. Mujino Shizuri giggled happily. This time she's really happy. Although she didn't manage to resolve the grudge in her heart, but to be able to see Wu Yan's expression change for her, it's still something to be happy about. I don't know what those self-righteous higher-ups are plotting. I only know a little about the inside story. However, the fact that they can hire us already proves how much they want this matter to be shameful. That's right, I'm not sure. Hearing Mujino Shizuri's words, Wu Yin didn't know if she's telling the truth. He just stared at her. He didn't think that Mujino Shizuri would say all this just to make him nervous. Seeing that Wu Yin didn't say anything, Mujino Shizuri stopped her meaningless laughter and shouted at Wu Yin. "Since you've already interfered with their plans, then our failure will only attract more powerful enemies for you." This time, Wu Yin lowered his head and laughed bitterly in his heart. How could he not understand what Mujino Shizuri was talking about? But even if he understood, sooner or later he'll have to face those powerful enemies. What difference does it make if it's a little later? In this aspect, Wu Yin was already prepared. No matter what, only this matter. I will never back down. At the same time this thought flashed through his mind, Wu Yan's words came out of his mouth at the same time. Everyone who heard his resolute words were stunned. Makoto smiled. Even though the corners of her mouth only curled up a little, it was enough to express all her feelings. She silently walked to Wu Yan's side and looked at Mujino Shizuri with Wu Yin. She silently expressed her stance. Wani-sama, Misaka-senpai, Kuriko, Ruko, and Miharu stared blankly at Makoto, who suddenly walked out. No matter how brainless they were, they could still deduce a little bit of truth from Mujino Shizuri's words. Wu Yin seemed to have interfered with the plans of some unknown organization's higher-ups. Then, the fourth person was sent to deal with Wu Yin. It seems that the organization didn't intend to let Wu Yin go and sent someone to deal with Wu Yin. Makoto, on the other hand, was planning to help Wu Yin. Mujino Shizuri was taken aback as well before she snorted coldly. "Not bad at all, but do you have the confidence to deal with the other guys and join forces with us? They still haven't canceled their mission to us." Wu Yin laughed when he heard this. "Is that so? Then I'll have to see for myself." "You?" Mujino Shizuri was shocked. Seeing Wu Yan's fearless expression, she gritted her teeth and turned her head away. "I hope you'll be as confident when the time comes." "Of course I'm confident, but I just need to make some preparations." Wu Yin grinned. He looked at Mujino Shizuri and said in a meaningful tone, "I wonder if Miss Mujino Shizuri is willing to give us the time to prepare." "Damned rat." Mujino Shizuri's face turned sinister again. "But her weakness is still in the enemy's hands. She can't not obey." Not willing to give up, Mujino Shizuri glared at Wu Yin before continuing in a low voice. Don't worry, even without our intel, it's only a matter of time before they find you. What she meant was that they won't give any intel about Wu Yin to the people they sent to deal with Wu Yin. But if those people found Wu Yin on their own, there's nothing they can do. But Wu Yin is already satisfied. He just needs some time to find Chuju, and then he can focus on dealing with them. Turning around, Mujino Shizuri's back is facing him. Let's see if a rat like you is better at digging holes, or if those hunting dogs with dog-like noses are better at finding people. After that, she walked past Kinhita Sai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku, and headed towards the door. Hound with the nose of a dog. Mujino Shizuri's words caught Wu Yan's attention. Nose of a dog? Hounds? Could it be that the person they sent is, if it's really that person, then it's better to just kill him if possible? Thinking of the person who might appear, Wu Yin made up his mind without any hesitation. Just you wait. Kuriko saw that Mujino Shizuri was about to leave and wanted to stop her. But Mikoto grabbed her shoulder and shook her head. Only then did Kuriko unwillingly retreated. Kinuhita Sai glared at Wu Yin, but was glared back by Wu Yin. She shrunk her head but still forced herself to straighten up. Just you wait. One day I'll get back at you. After shouting that, Kinuhita Sai ran away without another word. Frenda looked at Mujino Shizuri and Kinuhita Sai helplessly before laughing dryly at Wu Yin and also running away. Takitsubu Riku looked at Wu Yin seriously before lowering her head and followed behind the former. Chapter 168. As the four girls walked out of the restaurant, the scene once again fell into silence. Mikoto tilted her head and looked at Wu Yin beside her. Seeing him frowning in deep thought, Mikoto thought Wu Yin was worried about the people Mujino Shizuri mentioned. She looked at him worriedly. I'm fine, just thinking about something. Don't worry. Wu Yin naturally felt Mikoto's worried gaze. He responded with a big smile to show that he's fine. Only then did Mikoto breathe a sigh of relief. Wani-sama, what's going on? Kuriko finally couldn't help but ask. What plan? Why do you need to use the word deal? Also, that scum, what organization's higher-ups did he offend? 3 questions in a row, Ruko and Wiharu had the same question in their hearts. The 3 of them looked at Wu Yin and Mikoto, hoping that they could answer their questions. Mikoto bitterly smiled and lowered her head. Kuriko, Ruko, Wiharu, I hope you don't ask. Wani-sama. This time, Kuriko's voice was much louder than before. It was different from how she usually addressed Mikoto. What's the matter? Can't you say it out loud so that we can solve it together? If this scum is involved in some crime, as a member of the disciplinary committee, I won't let anything happen to him. Yeah, Misaka-senpai. Wiharu, who was usually soft and weak, stood up and said firmly to Mikoto, I believe Misaka-senpai wouldn't do anything bad. It must be those people's fault. As a member of the disciplinary committee, I'll do my best to help you guys. Aren't we all friends? If there's a problem, we should face it together. Ruko felt that compared to Kuriko and Wiharu, she wouldn't be able to help much. But if she was needed, she wouldn't refuse. Mikoto lowered her head even more. Kuriko, don't say any more. Wani-sama. Kuriko, who wanted to persuade Mikoto, stopped. So did Wiharu and Ruko. That's because under Mikoto's hair, there was a flash of pain in her eyes. How could it not be painful? Mikoto already felt guilty and blamed herself for what happened to her sisters. This kind girl took all the blame on herself. If it wasn't for Wu Yin, her mental state would have collapsed at any moment. Blackie, Ruizi, and Early Spring wanted to help them. But how could they? Their enemy was the chairman of Academy City. In other words, almost the entire Academy City was their enemy. Kuriko and Wiharu, who were the disciplinary committee members in Academy City, were also. Wani-sama. Kuriko also went silent. Seeing the look in Mikoto's eyes, she completely understood. Perhaps the main character of this matter was not Wu Yin, but her elder sister. Thinking up to this point, Kuriko was even more certain that Wu Yin and Mikoto were the victims. She didn't believe that her most respected and admired sister would do something that would harm others. Her elder sister's sense of justice was extraordinarily high. It's just that, from the looks of it, she didn't want them to be involved in this matter. Kuriko smiled bitterly in her heart, but she put on a smile and said to Mikoto, "I know, Wani-sama. Kuriko believes that Wani-sama will be able to solve this problem because you are Tokuwadai's trump card, the electric princess of Tokuwadai, Misaka Mikoto, Shirai-san." Waharu and Ruko, who didn't expect Kuriko to compromise, were stunned. "Kuriko, thank you." Mikoto smiled at Kuriko. She was very touched by her understanding. Even Wu Yin, who was standing on the side, was very impressed by Kuriko. In the original work, Mikoto planned to destroy all the participating research institutes in order to stop the Absolute Aptitude User Evolution Project. She went out every night and only returned to the dorm in the morning, exhausted. Kuriko, who knows Mikoto well, how could she not know that Mikoto has a lot on her mind, seeing her like this? She knew that since her sister didn't want to tell her about it, she must have her own reasons. That's why no matter how much she wanted to help Mikoto, she held it in, just so that one day Mikoto would be able to tell her the whole story herself. But Mikoto didn't, because the research institute she destroyed were all part of Academy City. What she did, from a certain point of view, could be considered a complete crime. Kuriko, on the other hand, represents Academy City's law and order. She's the disciplinary committee member. In the original work, Mikoto asked Kuriko, "If I do something that endangers Academy City, Kuriko, what will you do?" In the end, Kuriko's answer was, "If that's the case, then even if it's Wani-sama, I will arrest you as a disciplinary committee member." So much so that Mikoto had no choice but to do things against her will every night behind the backs of the people closest to her in Academy City. Kuriko didn't know about this. But even so, she didn't disturb Mikoto. Not only did she try her best to hide the fact that Mikoto went out early at night from the dormitory supervisor, she also kept thinking of ways to make Mikoto happy. In order to make Mikoto smile, she even left school District 7 and ran to another district just to make Mikoto smile. They were both idiots from head to toe. Both of them. But Wien just can't hate them. In fact, he likes them a lot. Now that he's here, things are going in a completely different direction. But the way these two think about each other hasn't changed one bit. How did this kind of relationship come to be? The previous Wu Yin didn't understand, but now he might be able to, looking at Mikoto, then at Ikaros and Astria, who never left him. Wu Yan's gaze slowly softened. In the end, what's left is a tenderness that made Mikoto, Ikaros, and Astria's heart race, enough to make them engrave it in their hearts. Walking in front of Kuriko, Wu Yin raised his hand, and under Kuriko's astonished gaze, he pressed down on her pink hair, tied up in two ponytails. Waharu froze, Ruko froze, Mikoto froze as well. Kuriko's expression froze for a second before she went crazy. She violently struggled, trying to break free from Wu Yan's hand. "What are you doing? Scum, let go of your claws." Hearing that, Wu Yan didn't let go. Instead, he pressed down harder on Kuriko's head and rubbed it. He looked at Kuriko's fiery eyes and smiled. He spoke with a firm and gentle tone. "Don't worry, I will definitely return you a complete Wani-sama." Kuriko froze. Wu Yin patted her head and reached out his hand to Kuriko. "We made a promise." A pair of pink eyes stared straight at Wu Yan's smiling face. Kuriko suddenly felt a strong sense of bitterness in her heart. She didn't expect that in the end, the one who understood her the most would be this guy who she had always viewed as an enemy. Seeing Wu Yan's hand in front of her, Kuriko hesitantly stared at it. When she realized what she was doing, she quickly moved her hand away, then reluctantly moved it back. After a long while, Blackie slowly reached out and held the hand that was in front of her. "If you dare to go back on your words, I will definitely stuff you into the ground." Wu Yin, who heard Kuriko's last sentence no less than 10 times, laughed. Because this time, it's different. Ah, definitely. The two of them held each other's hands tightly, and the people around them bore witness to this promise. Mikoto's nose twitched. She resisted the urge to cry. She looked at her best friend and lover of life. At this moment, the worry for the future in her heart faded a lot. Wu Yin glanced at the crowd, and he grinned. "Don't worry. Everything. Everything will be fine. Chapter 169. Academy City, School District 7, Disciplinary Committee Activity Branch 177. Wiharu is sitting in front of a computer, typing something on a keyboard. Wuyin, Ikaros, Astria, Mikoto, Ruko, and Kuriko are standing behind her, staring at the computer screen. Got it. At a certain moment, Early Spring finally shouted. Following that, everyone's faces moved closer to the screen. Wiharu looked at the profile on the computer screen. When she saw the picture, she was stunned. Kuriko and Ruko were the same. What a beautiful person. The three of them couldn't help but blurt out. Kuriko then looked at Wu Yin with disdain and suspicion. Are you sure the person you asked Wiharu to find is your friend and not your next hunting target? Wu Yin laughed awkwardly, speechless. I don't know why, but I suddenly feel like beating someone up. Mikoto also laughed awkwardly. She was complaining in her mind. Why hunt? There's nothing left. Why hunt? Wiharu didn't know how to react. She could only read out the information on the computer screen. Guei Chiju, ability level 0, resident of School District 13, occupation, police officer. Wiharu, Ruko, and Kuriko all cried out in surprise. Even Wu Yin and Mikoto were shocked when they heard Chuju is a police officer of Academy City. Could this be a mistake? Blackie put his face in front of the computer screen to confirm that there were no mistakes, but he still doubtfully said, "That's impossible. The security guard are all teachers of Academy City who volunteer to join. Could this beautiful girl called Guei Zinaju be a teacher? To be precise, she's an intern teacher." Wiharu tapped on the keyboard. Chuju's information on the computer screen became more detailed. According to the information, Guei Zinaju is 15 years old this year. She completed her university studies and became an intern teacher in a school. She has a strong sense of justice. Although she's only LV0, she's quite good at swordsmanship. She once defeated a LV for Almighty with her own strength. She was invited by the police and became the youngest and best police officer in the entire Academy City. Hearing this, everyone was in disbelief. Tears looked at Hinajiku's photo with admiration. Amazing, she's so good in all aspects, as expected of Chuju. Mikoto also exclaimed, of course, she's good in all aspects. Wani-sama's acquaintances are all amazing people. Kuriko looked at Mikoto meaningfully before turning to Ikaros and said, no matter if it's this person here who can withstand a single attack from the fourth person of Academy City. Then she looked at the computer screen. Of course. Or the youngest and best police officer in Academy City. Then she looked at Astria. Her mouth twitched a few times. And then there's this super big eater that Kuriko might only see once in her life. Finally, she looked at the calm Wu Yin with a dangerous glint in her eyes. And then there's this scum with a lot of bad records. I saw him flirting with underage girls the moment I met him. And most importantly, Kuriko teleported in front of Mikoto. She leaned her face closer to Mikoto and said in a weird tone, as Wani-sama's side attendant and roommate, Kuriko never knew Wani-sama knew so many people. From the moment Kuriko started talking, Mikoto realized that something was wrong. Her entire face was covered in sweat. She forced a smile and forced herself to put on a strong front. You, how long have you known me? It's only been a year. How could you know so much about me? Even Wu Yin couldn't find any fault with Mikoto's excuse, but Kuriko's reaction was unusually agitated. Says who? Even if Kuriko only knew Wani-sama for a year, it's more than thousands of years. There's nothing Wani-sama that Kuriko doesn't know. Even what kind of underwear Wani-sama is wearing today, Kuriko knows. Bam! Mikoto blasted Kuriko to the floor with a punch. Her face flushed red, and she shouted angrily. Who told you to know all this? Hey, these two really are comic stars and crosstalk material. Wu Yan's mouth twitched, and he laughed dryly. Everyone nodded in agreement. Mikoto looked over with an angry glare. Everyone was shocked, and they quickly turned their heads back to the computer screen. Master, we found Chuju-nasen. Do you want to go pick her up? Astria tugged at Wu Yan's sleeve and asked with an expectant look. Speaking of which, It's been a while since she last saw Hanajuku. She really missed her. Wu Yin smiled. Of course, let's go find her now. I'll go with you guys, Mikoto quickly said and walked over to Wu Yan's side. Waharu, Ruko, and Kuriko also said they wanted to go with them. Wu Yin helplessly said, Then let's all go together. Academy City, School District 13, in front of a school gate. This is Chuju's school? Mikoto looked at the school. Her first impression was that she didn't have any impression of it. Indeed, compared to Tokuwadai's school, this school in front of her paled in comparison. This is the place. Waharu pointed at the small notebook in her hand and said with certainty, I'll go ask the guard with the identity of a disciplinary committee member. It'll be easier to get the information I want. Kuriko said to everyone and then disappeared in a flash. Do you need to use your ability for such a short distance? Wu Yin was speechless. After a while, Kuriko came back. Got it. That probationary teacher, Gue Daiju, is teaching in this school. Is she inside now? Wu Yin asked impatiently. To be honest, he also missed Chuju. Kuriko's face turned serious when she heard Wu Yan's question. No. According to the guard, Gue Senpai left in a hurry not long ago for some unknown reason. Although Kuriko, as a student, should call Hanajuku sensei out of politeness, but because Hanajuku was her Wanisama's friend, and they were around the same age, it would be weird to call her sensei, so she called her sensei. Of course, Wu Yin and the rest didn't think that much. They only cared about the information from Kuriko. Left in a hurry? Wu Yin frowned. Could something have happened? Mikoto asked worriedly. Maybe it's because of the guard's job. Ruko saw Wu Yin and Mikoto's worried faces and softly comforted them, but her words woke them up from their dreams. Wu Yin and Mikoto looked at each other and said to Waharu, Waharu, can you find out what happened around here? Something that requires the dispatch of guards. There's nothing I can do about that, Waharu said with a troubled expression. If there's something happening around here and we need to check it out, we can only use the surveillance cameras in the school district, but Waharu raised the small notebook in her hand and said, We don't have enough equipment on hand right now. Also, this isn't the school district we're in charge of. If we're caught using the surveillance cameras, we'll be charged with a crime. Is that so? Everyone went silent with a helpless expression. Only Astria raised her head and pointed at her chin. Then wouldn't it be fine if we don't get caught? How can we do that? Kuriko immediately objected. Let's not talk about the fact that we would commit a crime just to find someone. Even if it's Waharu, it's not that easy to use the surveillance cameras to conceal her whereabouts. Astria wasn't convinced by Waharu's words. Instead, she laughed proudly. I knew it. Someone could easily do something like this. Kuriko and Ruko had a look of disbelief. They knew Waharu's abilities the best. Only Wu Yin and Mikoto knew better. Right? Ikaro-senpai. Chapter 170. While Wu Yin, Mikoto, Ikaros, Astria, Kuriko, Ruko, and Waharu were busy dealing with Chuju's situation, Chuju was in big trouble. What is that? Hanajuku was wearing a police officer's protective suit. Her delicate body was wrapped in a bulletproof vest. Other than her head, her entire body was armed to the teeth. Holding a submachine gun in her hand, she looked like a female member of the Flying Tigers. Of course, this was all her disguise. She only wore this equipment to deceive others. Her true strength lay in her strength of the seventh step. When she first came to this world, she was a bit overwhelmed by her sudden identity as a sensei and a guard. But later on, with her superior strength and the decent academic results she acquired in Hakuo Academy, she managed to cope even without Wu Yin and Ko by her side. Originally, Hanajuku planned to disguise herself as a resident of Academy City while looking for Wu Yin and company. Or maybe wait for Wu Yin and Ko to come looking for her. Then, from time to time, she would play the role of a security guard and help out. Today, as usual, Hanajuku was preparing for her lessons at school. But who would have thought that halfway through her preparation, she would receive an emergency call from her superior as a police officer. She hurriedly put on the equipment that she was already used to and rushed to the scene. However, The scene that appeared in front of her made her completely unable to react. Her colleagues that she used to work well with were all standing in front of her, and they fainted. That's right, they fainted standing there. Their eyes were rolled back, and they stood there like ghosts. Behind them, there was a thin thread. The thread passed through the back of their heads and extended into the distance. It was connected to something that looked very strange. A brain that was kept in a liquid culture tank. What the hell is going on? Hinajika took 2 steps back and looked at her colleagues who were acting strangely. She was a little confused. What the hell is that? As if reacting to Chuju's arrival, the police officers who were quietly standing there suddenly turned their heads stiffly. They looked at Chuju with their empty white eye sockets. Chuju felt goosebumps all over her body. Hey, you guys. Are you guys okay? Chuju shouted at her colleagues, trying to get them to return to their original state. But Chuju was destined to be disappointed. Not only did the police officers not return to their original state, they turned in a circle in the air like puppets. Their hands and legs twisted unnaturally. Then they all pounced on Chuju. Chuju was shocked. She reflexively raised the submachine gun in her hand. But when she remembered that these people were her colleagues, she quickly put down the gun. At this moment, the police officers were already in front of Chuju. Looking at one of her former colleagues, opening his mouth wide and viciously biting her neck, Hinajika finally reacted and dodged the attack with a sidestep. She reached out a hand and pressed the other party's head to the ground. Chuju shouted at him, "Hey you!" Before she could finish, the others had already pounced on her. They raised their fists, raised their legs, and attacked Chuju in all kinds of ways. As a level 7 powerhouse, Chuju was comparable to a level 5. How could she be attacked by these guys who were not even level 3? But considering that they were colleagues, Chuju could not attack back. She could only retreat helplessly. What the hell is going on? Chuju dodged their attacks as her mind raced. She knew very well that these colleagues were not doing this willingly. Could it be that thing? Hinajiku quickly looked into the distance, at the brain in the culture tank. After all, it was impossible for these guards to do anything to her. It was obvious that they were being manipulated. On the brain, there were countless thin threads connected to the back of the police officers' heads. Chuju only needed to think for a moment to understand. Then if I destroy these threads... Chuju looked at the threads connected to the back of her colleagues' heads and made up her mind. Yo, this beautiful and capable lady, you better not destroy these threads. If you don't want your colleagues' brains to be fried. A sudden voice stunned Chuju. At the same time, she stopped attacking the threads and dodged the attacks of her colleagues who were being controlled. After stabilizing herself, Chuju immediately looked at the source of the voice. She saw a sloppy young man in a white coat standing beside the brain in the culture tank. He looked at Chuju with a pair of evil eyes and a smile that made Chuju frown. Seeing Chuju looking over, the sloppy young man raised his hands and clapped as if to praise Chuju. You are really impressive. You can still dodge and attack so leisurely when facing the attacks of so many colleagues. Looks like you are the young police officer who has been in the limelight recently. Who are you? Hinajika stared at the sloppy young man, then looked at her colleague. What happened to them? Hearing this, the sloppy young man put down his hands and laughed. You can call me Gakuo. As for what happened to them, the sloppy young man, named Gakuo, looked around at the police officers who were being controlled and said, Don't worry, young and beautiful police officer. They will be fine. We'll be fine. Hearing Gakuo's words, Chuju was so angry that she laughed. Just find someone and see if they will think that they will be fine. Oh, what a scary expression. Gakuo patted his chest pretentiously, then smiled and said, Don't worry, Miss Police Officer. I just want to use their bodies to see how effective my invention is. Chuju's face darkened. She stared at Gakuo with her yellow-green eyes, full of anger. Although they had not known each other for a long time, these colleagues were still good friends with her. Now, they were being used as test subjects by an unknown person. How could Chuju not be angry? Looking at the reactions of your colleagues, it seems that my invention is quite effective. Gakuo acted as if he did not see Chuju's expression. He looked at the brain beside him, his sloppy eyes filled with passion. Gakuo laughed and held the culture tank with both hands. He laughed loudly and said, "This is great. This is great. This kind of invention will definitely make that annoying family member show a good expression." Hearing this, Chuju caught on to some words and frowned. Annoying family? That's right. That annoying family. Gakuo abruptly turned to Hinajiku and hatefully said, "They think they're the best scientists in the entire Academy City, not putting other people's inventions in their eyes. All of them are like that, casually trampling on other people's inventions. Don't you think they're so annoying?" Chuju looked at Gakuo, who had suddenly sunk into some kind of hatred, and said, "I don't care what grudges you have with that so-called family. I just want to know how to make them return to normal." Seeing that Chuju did not want to listen to him, Gakuo clicked his tongue and looked at the brain. His gaze was as passionate as ever, as if he was looking at his most precious treasure. "If you want them to return to normal, you just need to do it here," Gakuo said casually and pointed at a remote control device at the corner of the culture tank. "Just enter the command and it will be done." "How is it? Isn't it an excellent invention?" The last sentence sounded like he was showing off to Chuju, but Chuju was not in the mood to listen. Then quickly returned them to normal. "It doesn't matter. My observation is almost done anyway," Gakuo said. Suddenly, he looked at Chuju with an evil smile. "However, I still want to see how you, the most outstanding and youngest police officer, will react under the control of my invention." Chapter 171. However, I still want to see how you, the most outstanding and youngest police officer, will react under the control of my invention. Hearing Gakuo's words, Chuju's eyes turned cold. She threw away the submachine gun in her hand and stood up. "Looks like the negotiation is off the table." Chuju looked at Gakuo and said. At the same time, she looked at the culture tank beside Gakuo. "Oh, looks like Miss Police Officer wants to try my invention yourself." Gakuo laughed evilly. "Although I haven't used it to control an aptitude user, in theory, my invention can even control a level 5 aptitude user with supercomputing power." Chuju was silent. She stared at the culture tank. She had made up her mind. She will rush over and knock down the tasteless guy. Then, she will figure out how to restore the police officers. Perhaps he saw through Chuju's plan. Gakuo took 2 steps back and came to the control panel of the culture tank. "After Miss Police Officer has tried my invention, I will use it to control those aptitude users, starting from level 1, then level 2, then level 3, level 4, and finally level 5 aptitude users." Gakuo laughed out loud, as if he had seen his invention successfully controlling everyone. "In the end, I will use my invention to control those who trampled on my dignity. Then I will tell everyone that I, Gakuo, am the best scientist in Academy City." By the end of his speech, Gakuo seemed to have lost his mind. He pressed his hand on the control panel, and with some unknown method, a large number of silk threads grew out from the brain in the culture tank. The silk threads penetrated through the culture tank that separated the liquid from the air and shot toward the daisy. So fast, Hinajiku was slightly shocked. The speed of these threads was too fast. It was not something that could be seen with the naked eye. Of course, as a Tier 7 powerhouse, Chuju could still see the movement of the silk thread. He hurriedly dodged to the side, and the silk thread shot at the ground where Chuju was just standing. Before Chuju could breathe a sigh of relief, those silk threads suddenly turned and shot towards Chuju, causing Chuju's pupils to shrink and condense. She clenched her hand, and a cherry blossom that came out of nowhere rolled into her palm and transformed into a crystal sword. White cherry. White cherry had already evolved into a rare armament. Seeing the scene of Chuju transforming into white cherry, Gakuo was stunned and said in surprise, "A metahuman? That's not right." Gakuo looked at the white cherry blossom in Chuju's hand and frowned. "I've never heard that this young guard has any ability." After giving it some thought, Gakuo shook his head and decided not to think about it anymore. "That's good too. Although it's not in line with the plan, it's not bad to try out the effects of using the remote brain to control metahumans." Chuju stared at the silk threads that were shooting towards her. The white cherry blossom in her hand turned into an arc and slashed towards those silk threads. With a swing, the silk threads were cut off. Before Chuju could rejoice, new silk threads came in and continued to shoot towards Chuju. Seeing this, Chuju raised the white cherry blossom in her hand again. Suddenly, a few figures appeared beside Chuju and charged towards Chuju, who was about to swing her sword at the silk threads. They were the controlled guards. Moving her feet, Hinagiku gave up on the action of slashing the silk thread. Instead, she jumped and landed on top of the officer's head. She adjusted her position in the air and landed not far away from the officer. Very quickly, the controlled guards charged towards Hinagiku again. Chuju gritted her teeth and apologized silently. Instead of retreating, she charged towards the attacking guards. Without using the white cherry blossom, she reached out her hand and dislocated their joints. Waving her hand, Chuju continued to dislocate the joints of the guards and put them all on the ground. There was no other way. They were unconscious in the first place. It was impossible to knock them out. This was the only way to prevent them from moving again. After Hinagiku had taken down all the guards, she heaved a sigh of relief. However, the relaxed Hinagiku's line of sight was soon filled with threads. Chuju was shocked. She raised the white cherry blossom and cut off all the silk threads. However, one of the silk threads came from behind and attacked her. It was aimed at the back of Chuju's head. Seeing this, Gakuo, who was far away, had a victorious smile on his face. Just as Hinagiku was about to be attacked, a petite figure with two pink ponytails swaying came to the stunned Hinagiku. Her small hand touched Hinagiku's body, and the two of them disappeared together. Hinagiku only felt a blur in front of her eyes, and when she regained her vision, several familiar figures were already standing beside her. Yen, Mikoto, Ikaros, Astria. One by one, familiar faces appeared in front of Hinagiku. Although she didn't know why they suddenly appeared, Hinagiku still cried out in joy. Chuju. Mikoto grinned at Hinagiku. That's to be expected. Ever since she was summoned, Hinagiku and Wu Yin were the only ones who stayed by her side. Among these people, the one who was closest to Chuju is definitely not Wu Yin, but Mikoto. Mikoto. Chuju hugged Mikoto in surprise. She was very happy. After all, ever since she came to Academy City, she has been looking for her companions. How could she not be happy? Who are you people? In the distance, Gakuo saw that his plan failed and his face turned gloomy. He looked at Wu Yin and the others with hostility. Everyone heard him and looked at Gakuo. Wu Yin's eyes flashed with a cold light. When he appeared, Chuju was attacked. What happened before wasn't very clear. But the culprit behind the attack on Hinagiku, there's no need to look for it. His figure flashed and turned into a straight line of afterimages. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Gakuo. Gakuo's face that was unhappy with Wu Yin and the others for ruining his good thing froze. Raising his fist, Wu Yin punched Gakuo in the face. Gakuo's nose started bleeding. Wu Yin grabbed Gakuo's collar and pulled him back before he could fly away. Then he punched Gakuo in the stomach. Ah! Gakuo shrieked in pain after the two punches. By the time he reacted, he felt a sharp pain coming from his stomach. His nose also felt sour and sweet. All sorts of feelings welled up inside of him. After being punched twice by Wu Yin, Gakuo went limp. When Wu Yin let go of his collar, Gakuo fell to the ground and turned into a shrimp. Clapping his hands, Wu Yin kicked Gakuo on the ground. These two punches are the price for bullying Chuju. At this time, Chuju, Mikoto, and the others in the distance reacted and quickly ran toward Wu Yin. Chuju was the fastest one. If there was one person she missed the most in Academy City, it would be Wu Yin. After all, Chuju's heart was already on Wu Yin. How could she not miss Wu Yin? Although she was at Sundara and didn't want to show how much she missed Wu Yin, Chuju inadvertently showed her inner joy when she saw Wu Yin and how she stood up for her. Of course, this joy was deeply hidden by Chuju when she ran in front of Wu Yin. Where have you all been all this time? Chuju deliberately looked at Wu Yin with a dissatisfied face. She blamed Wu Yin for everyone's separation. Wu Yin smiled bitterly. We've been looking for you, okay? Humph. And you say you've been looking for me. Chuju snorted coldly. She looked at Makoto, Ikaros, and Astria. I was the last one. If I told you that finding Ikaros and Astria was an accident, would you believe me? Wu Yin smiled embarrassedly and said to Chuju, I don't believe you, Chuju said. Chapter 172. A reunion is always a joyous occasion. Although Wu Yin always has a bitter smile on his face, he's actually happy to be able to see Hinajuku again. Everyone got caught up in the atmosphere of reunion and introductions. For a moment, they forgot that there's still a person lying on the ground crying out in pain. After the initial introductions, Chuju became familiar with Kuriko, Ruko, and Wiharu. Kuriko, and Wiharu were very friendly towards Chuju because they noticed that the most outstanding and youngest officer in the school had the same personality as Makoto, especially Ruko. Chuju was pretty and easy to get along with. Not only did she become a teacher at such a young age, she was also a police officer. Most importantly, she was a LV0 just like her. Ruko instantly became Chuju's fan. All right, how'd you guys end up here? Chuju looked at Wu Yan's group in confusion. She already knew that Wu Yan's group was in the faraway School District 7. She didn't know why they suddenly came to School District 13 and even saved her from carelessness. Hearing this, everyone looked at Wiharu and Ikaros and explained to Hinajuku. Hinajuku finally realized that Wiharu in front of her was an amazing internet expert. Amazing. Wiharu. Chuju didn't hold back her compliments. Wiharu blushed and lowered her head, looking embarrassed. It's nothing. Actually, Ikaro-senpai is the one who's really amazing. Wiharu looked at Ikaros, who was standing beside Wu Yin, with a look of admiration. Using a small portable laptop, she was able to hide from everyone and mobilize all the surveillance cameras in School District 13. That's incredible. That's right. The reason why they found Chuju was because of Ikaros. Speaking of which, Ikaros has great computing skills. For someone like Ikaros, who came from Synapse, who invented all kinds of weird things, this level of computing is nothing but child's play. In this domain, in a world of things that fell from the sky, other than Nymph, who wasn't good at fighting and specialized in dealing with electrons, Ikaros was the strongest. As for Astria, forget it. She's better off not falling down when walking and choking when eating rather than relying on her to operate a computer. Hinajuku, of course, knew about Ikaros' background. Hearing Wiharu's words, she patted Wiharu's shoulder and said under Wiharu's confused gaze, Wiharu, it's better if you don't compare yourself to Ikaros. It's unfair to you. Weichin nodded as if she understood, hiding the question marks on her head and her heart. What's up with this guy? Wu Yin asked Chuju as he kicked Gakuo, who couldn't get up from the ground. With Hinajuku's explanation, everyone finally understood what this Gakuo guy on the ground did, especially Makoto. Looking at Gakuo lying on the ground, her eyes were filled with unconcealable disgust. She was caught in a human cloning project, and her DNA was turned into an experimental subject. Facing a scientist like Gakuo who didn't care about other people and casually played with other people's bodies, Makoto couldn't hate him more. So you're saying this disgusting thing is the culprit controlling the police officers? Blackie walked around the culture tank and looked at the disgusting brain inside. He furrowed his brows. Wiharu, do you have a way to restore the police officers? I'll give it a try. Wiharu didn't seem to have much confidence. That's to be expected since her strength lies in the internet. She didn't have much confidence in this kind of control device. Chuju thanked Wiharu and glanced at Wu Yin. Seeing Wu Yin staring at the brain in a daze, she nudged him in dissatisfaction. Wu Yin didn't react at all. He was stunned by the system notification that suddenly rang in his mind. Beep. Detected special item control brain. According to the system, this item can be used to unlock the mysterious crystal on the user's body. User is advised to retrieve this item. It's because of this notification that Wu Yin stared blankly at the unsightly human brain. He couldn't react at all. Mysterious crystal. This is the crystal that he got from the world of Butler Whirlwind. If it wasn't for this notification, Wu Yin would have forgotten about it. He still remembered that I Cheng's mother had once said that a very powerful demon was sealed within this mysterious crystal. Now that the system told Wu Yin that the brain in front of him could be used to unlock the mysterious crystal, Wu Yin was of course stunned. Could it be that this monster would become his fighter after it was unsealed? Wu Yin couldn't stay calm anymore. Seeing that Waharu was about to approach the control brain, Wu Yin couldn't stay calm anymore and quickly called out, "Wait, Waharu!" Waharu stopped in her tracks, and she looked at Wu Yin in confusion. "What's wrong, Senior Wu Yin?" The others also looked at Wu Yin in confusion. They didn't think that Wu Yin didn't want to save the people. Wu Yin's face stiffened as well. Seeing that Waharu was about to approach the brain, he called out without thinking. He really didn't mean anything else. "It's nothing, you can continue." Wu Yin could only laugh awkwardly. The girls rolled their eyes at him. Makoto and Chuju thought that Wu Yin was being naughty again. One had to admit that Chu-chan was quite good at manipulating machines. Soon enough, the wires connected to the officers were retracted. Chuju let out a sigh of relief and quickly ran up to them. She couldn't help it. The guards' joints were still dislocated. Wu Yin touched the control brain culture tank and put it into his infinite space ring. He didn't even ask for the others' opinion. Kuriko, Waharu, and Ruko were shocked. "What are you doing with that? What's going on?" Gakuo, who was lying on the ground like a corpse, was so excited when he saw the control brain disappear. He ignored the pain and screamed loudly. "Where's my invention? Where did you put my invention?" Gakuo looked at Wu Yin in a crazed manner. He reached out his hand, and he wanted to strangle Wu Yin. Wu Yin frowned and kicked Gakuo to the ground. "Do you think you can still protect your so-called invention when you're in jail?" Gakuo looked at Wu Yin with a twisted face. After a while, he bit his lip and punched the ground. Damn it! Damn it! Originally, I wanted to give that despicable Kahara a show of strength. Damn it! Kahara. As the saying goes, the speaker doesn't mean much, but the listener does. Kahara is a surname that represents a big deal in Academy City. Everyone would pay attention to it, let alone Wu Yin. "You just said Kahara, right?" "Right." Wu Yin pulled Gakuo up and grabbed him by the collar. "That's right. That's him." Gakuo shouted at Wu Yin. Perhaps he was hit by the fact that he couldn't take revenge on Kahara. "That's the guy who looked down on my invention." Wu Yin dodged Gakuo's spit and looked at him with a frown. "Kahara? Which Kahara are you talking about? Who else could it be? It's Kihara Amida." Gakuo's tone was full of resentment when he mentioned that name. "Even if I remember my own name wrongly, I won't forget his name." Wu Yin let go of his hand and let Gakuo kneel on the ground. He looked at him silently. The girls also realized something and looked at Gakuo. That guy who hides his head but shows his tail. I don't know what's wrong with him recently. He's been leading a group of people everywhere to look for something. Hearing this, Wu Yin narrowed his eyes and confirmed his guess. Last time, Mujino Shizuri said that another person was sent to deal with him. It must be Kihara Amida. He's with his Hound unit. He ruined Alistair's plan. This unit belongs to him and is directly under his command. How could it not be dispatched? Chapter 173. Academy City, School, District 13. Wu Yin stood on the side with Makoto and Ruko beside him. Ikaros and Estrella stood behind him. The three of them watched as Gakuo entered the transport vehicle. Kuriko and Waharu were talking to some of the officers, and so was Hinajiku. However, compared to Kuriko's quiet conversation, Hinajiku's side seemed to be having a heated discussion. It was mainly because the officers seemed to have heard something from Hinajiku, and they were all very excited. Wu Yin looked at them and didn't say anything. He could guess the general situation, so he didn't need to pay attention to it. He didn't have a mood to do so anyway. His heart was filled with helplessness. He thought the control brain was the key to unsealing the mysterious crystal. But just as he was about to figure out how to unseal the crystal, the system sent him another message. The control brain is only a part of unlocking the mysterious crystal. Happy for nothing. truly happy for nothing. Wu Yin sighed helplessly and put this matter aside. No matter what, the most important thing right now is to save his sisters. He'll look into the mysterious crystal later. At this time, Kuriko and Miharu came back. They were chatting with Mikoto, and Chuju seemed to have made up her mind. The police officers looked helpless. By the time Hinajuku returned, she had already taken off her equipment. Instead, she was wearing a yellow dress and a white jacket. Most of the guards had already left. "You're done." Looking at Hinajuku, who was walking back, Wu Yin said with a smile. At this point, they're the only ones left at the scene. Chuju nodded nonchalantly. She looked at Mikoto and Wu Yin. "What do we do next?" Wu Yin understood what Chuju meant. She wants to help Mikoto, save her sisters. What does she have to do? "Let's go back first." "Where are we going?" Hinajuku asked curiously. Wu Yin didn't even think before answering. "Of course to my house." "You're home." Hinajuku was stunned, and her face started to redden. Who wants to go to your house?" I want to go to Mikoto's house." She grabbed Mikoto's hand. She wanted to use Mikoto as a safe haven. Unfortunately, Mikoto betrayed her without hesitation. "Well, I live in a dormitory. I can't let outsiders live there," Mikoto said after holding back for a long time. This sentence stunned Chuju. "Okay, let's go home." Wu Yin grabbed Hinajuku's hand and led her outside. He can't help it. At this rate, even if Hinajuku doesn't end up at Mikoto's place, she will end up at Waharu or Ruko's place. Wait, Chuju said in a panic. She knew what would happen if she moved into Wu Yan's house. But she couldn't do anything about it. Ruko and Wiko stared blankly at Chuju being dragged away. Kuriko looked like she saw a new continent. She yelled at Mikoto. "Wani-sama, look, that scum finally showed his true colors." Mikoto laughed dryly. What else can she say? She could only bury the slight envy in her heart. She shook her head and followed Kuriko and the others. Academy City, School District 7. At the same time, Wu Yin, Chuju, Ikaros, and Astria were sitting in a circle. They were looking at a bottle in the middle of them with a serious expression. The bottle was filled with a golden liquid. Super Pow's group of 4 already went back to their dorms. After all, it's the end of school, so students are forbidden from going out. Wu Yin shook his head in frustration. He looked at Chuju, Ikaros, and Astria and bitterly smiled. "Actually, I can do it alone." Hinajuka squinted her eyes at Wu Yin until he turned his head away in an unnatural manner before she snorted a couple of times. "Don't treat me like a kid," Wu Yin complained in his mind. "A 15-year-old like you is just a kid to a 20-year-old like me." While he's complaining about this, he seems to have forgotten that he's already pushed down this kid in front of him. No matter how much Wu Yin complained, Chuju didn't plan to leave Wu Yin alone. Ikaros and Astria, well, from their expressions, Wu Yin knew they didn't plan to leave either. "I don't care anymore. Just don't regret it." Wu Yin lowered his head dejectedly. He ignored Chuju and Astria's victorious expression and touched his space ring. Wu Yin took out some items from the S.P.A.C. ring. Hinajuku and Astria covered their mouths in disbelief. "Damn it, this is unforgivable." Chuju gritted her teeth. Her eyes were filled with anger. Ikaros and Astria stared at the thing on the floor in silence. Feet, hands, body, head, blood. That's the only way to describe what Wu Yin took out. Even though Wu Yin has seen it countless times, he couldn't bear to look at it anymore, especially when he saw the face that looked exactly like Mikoto. Wu Yin's heart was filled with all kinds of complicated emotions. Even though he knew Accelerator would be cleared of his crimes, Wu Yin couldn't help but feel angry. If he could, Wu Yin really wanted to kill Accelerator. After taking a few deep breaths, Wu Yin neatly arranged his dead sister's body parts on the floor. Then, he picked up the genetic life serum and poured some on her body. The golden liquid seeped into his sister's body like water. Then, under the gaze of Wu Yin, Chuju, Ikaros, and Astria, it slowly melted into her body. When the last drop of liquid entered her body suddenly turned into a ball of light. The light on the ground constantly twisted, disintegrated, integrated, and finally molded. After a short while, a familiar figure was formed. When the light faded, a face and body identical to Makoto's appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Wu Yin, Chuju, Astria, and even Ikaros's heart were in their throats. They looked at Misaka's sister's tightly shut eyes and waited for them to bloom again. Misaka's sister didn't disappoint. Her eyelids twitched a few times under everyone's expectant gaze. Then, under Wu Yin and the other surprised gaze, she slowly opened her eyes. It worked! Astria cheered in joy. Wu Yin and Makoto exchanged glances and smiled. At the same time, they also let out a sigh of relief. It worked, that's good. Misaka's sister looked around with the same eyes as Makoto. However, there wasn't much vitality in her eyes. It was like a plate of stagnant water. Where is this? Didn't Misaka die already? Misaka looked around in confusion. At the same time, she was wondering if this place was heaven or hell. His face was expressionless, and his voice was as calm as an ancient well. He stated this sentence with an incomparably calm tone. Even Wu Yin felt a bit speechless. Hinajiku and Astria looked at each other before looking at their sister. They didn't know what to say. Misaka's sister sat up straight and looked at Wu Yin and the others. She tilted her head. Are you guys the ones who died with Misaka? Misaka's sister said in a relieved tone. At the same time, I'm happy that even if I die, I won't be lonely anymore. Wu Yin, Chuju, Astria, and Ikaros were speechless. After some explanation, Misaka's sister finally realized that she wasn't dead. She was saved by these people. Misaka's sister was silent for a moment before she spoke. Why did you save Misaka? Misaka's sister's body is borrowed. Her heart is fake as well. Each one costs 180,000 yen, and there are more than 10,000 of them in stock. You just have to press a button, and you can make them. Wu Yin smiled when he heard that. He reached out and patted Misaka Mei's head. Misaka Mei didn't know what he was talking about. Just think of it as doing it for your Oni-sama. Chapter 174. No matter what, the effect of the genetic life replenishment serum is really good. Wu Yan's smile didn't fade the entire night as he watched his sisters being resurrected one by one. At this moment, Wu Yin felt that the 1 million item points was well spent. After resurrecting all the sisters, Wu Yin released the other sister from the biocontainment device and used the genetic life replenishment serum to complete their bodies. More than 10,000 sisters were resurrected under the efforts of Wu Yin, Chuju, Ikaros, and Astria. Wu Yin felt a great sense of accomplishment when he completed the last sister's life cycle and placed her into the biocontainment device. How could Wu Yin not feel a sense of accomplishment after saving nearly half of his sisters? Wu Yin can't wait to save all the sisters that are still alive. However, this matter can't be rushed. If he acts too hastily, he might expose himself to Alistair. If Alistair only had strength, Wu Yin wouldn't hesitate to do so. However, Alistair's scariest part is his monstrous IQ. Who knows if he would be dragged into some scheme by Alistair if he was exposed. Like a seductress, he would be sold to the point that even his own mother wouldn't recognize him. Wu Yin felt like his brain is better than his seductress hands. However, compared to Alistair, he really can't compare. That's why it's still too early to relax. After all, there are still a lot of sisters that haven't been saved yet. Every day, more and more sisters are dying. Of course, Wu Yin was happy that he managed to resurrect all of his sisters. It's obvious from the good sleep he had that night. However, Wu Yin didn't feel that way when he woke up the next day. Good morning, Master. Ikaros, why are you lying on top of me again? Wu Yin jumped up out of shock. However, he forgot that Ikaros was lying on top of him with her hands on both sides of his head. Wu Yin got up and buried himself in a huge pile of soft flesh. The soft touch on his face, the oddly fragrant aroma that wafted into his nose, and the suffocating sensation that could take his life, all of these are reminding him of the situation he's in right now. Wu Yin couldn't help but move his head, and he burrowed deeper into the ground. My master! Ikaros stared blankly at Wu Yin. Suddenly, she turned around and left Wu Yin. When Ikaros left, Wu Yin, who put his weight on his head, tumbled and fell to the ground. The pain in his head woke Wu Yin up. Realizing what he did, Wu Yin raised his head and looked at Ikaros awkwardly. Wu Yin froze. The usually expressionless Ikaros's cheeks were slightly red, her eyes were shy, her hands were hugging her breasts, and she gave Wu Yin a look before lowering her head. "I'm not dreaming, right?" Wu Yin mumbled. Ikaros is actually shy about being taken advantage of, master. Seeing Wu Yin staring at her, Ikaros blushed again and lowered her head even more. Looking at the bashful Ikaros with her arms crossed in front of her chest, making her already extraordinary breasts look even bigger, Wu Yin couldn't help but gulp down a mouthful of saliva. Ikaros's morning grumpiness is like a match thrown into a gas tank. The fire in him is burning. Ikaros. Under Xiaohua's control, Wu Yin finally raised his hand and reached towards Ikaros. It's impossible for Ikaros not to see Wu Yan's actions. When she saw Wu Yan's hand reaching towards her, an inexplicable burning sensation rushed into her kinetic furnace, making her feel a little dizzy. If this was the original Ikaros, her body's auto-repair function would have activated and erased the cause of her kinetic furnace's abnormality. In other words, she would have erased all memories of Wu Yan. But as someone who's seen the original, Wu Yan wouldn't let that happen. When he first summoned Ikaros, Wu Yan already found an item that could identify the state of the kinetic furnace. In other words, at that time, Wu Yin was already preparing himself for the day when he and Ikaros would make love. After what felt like a century, the distance between Wu Yan's hand and Ikaros's body kept shrinking. Finally, Wu Yan's hand pressed against Ikaros's huge chest. "Mama, master!" Ikaros's face finally turned completely red. The pair of small accessories next to her ears swayed gently like a cat's ears, causing the fire in Wu Yan's heart to burn even brighter. Ikaros. Panting a few times, Wu Yin hugged Ikaros's body into his arms and pressed his hands on her plump breasts, kneading them. "Master! No!" There's a strange feeling. Ikaros didn't know what to do as she grabbed Wu Yan's hands that went under her armpits and kneaded her breasts. Her indigo eyes started to turn misty. But not only did Ikaros's words not dispel Wu Yan's desire, it actually encouraged it. After all, who's ever seen Ikaros this shy? Even in the original, no one's ever seen it. And so, of course, Wu Yan's hands kneaded even harder. He even buried his head next to Ikaros's ear and licked her cheek. And a master, Ikaros blankly felt the sensations coming from her body. Based on her calculations, the furnace should have burned to the point where it would have burned out, but for some reason, her furnace somehow managed to hold on. His tongue slowly licked from Ikaros's cheek to her neck, then from her neck to her cheeks. Listening to Ikaros's never-heard-before moaning, holding a pair of large breasts that he's never held before, Wu Yin bit Ikaros's earlobe. Ugh! Ikaros didn't know why she's making such noises. She also didn't know why she felt strange when her master did such a thing to her. But she does know that her master is very happy. And as long as her master is happy, then Ikaros will be happy as well. Ugh! Her red lips gently parted, a whimper escaped. Ikaros's legs uncontrollably clamped together and started rubbing against him. "Master!" Ikaros strenuously turned her head to look at Wu Yin, who's licking her neck. Her indigo eyes are already filled with lust. Wu Yin stared blankly at the aroused Ikaros. He slowly lowered his head and inched closer to her. Seeing her master's face getting closer and closer, Ikaros's eyes flickered. Then, for some reason, she suddenly said something. "Master, breakfast." At this moment, Wu Yin finally realized what he's doing. Looking at Ikaros in his arms, Wu Yin smiled embarrassedly and pinched her a couple more times before running out of the room. Ikaros laid on Wu Yin's bed, gasping for air. Wu Yin ran out of his room, and with a leap, he flashed into Hinajiku's room. Looking at Hinajiku, who was stunned by his sudden intrusion, he hugged her and threw her onto the bed. "You!" Ugh! Before Chuju could finish, Wu Yin covered her mouth. This is Ikaros's first time, so it's not good to eat during the day. but not Shuju. Chapter 175. For the whole morning, Wu Yin stayed in Hinajiku's room. The sheets wrapped around both of them wriggled, and Hinajiku's sweet moans came from inside. Even with the blankets separating them, Wu Yin could still hear Hinajiku's moans clearly. Ikaros and Astria also heard the sounds coming from inside the room. Astria buried her head in the middle of her food like a glutton. But if you look closely, you'll notice Astria's face is as red as a tomato. Astria wasn't an all-purpose angel like Ikaros, who excelled in combat and computing but had poor emotional skills. Compared to Ikaros, Astria didn't have any computing skills, but her emotional skills were outstanding. Ikaros might not know what Wu Yin and Shuju are doing, but Astria definitely knows. Of course, Ikaros didn't know about it. Astria looked at Ikaros in shock. Her mouth was wide open as if she saw a UFO. It was an exaggeration. Ikaros's cheeks were pink, her skin was pink, and her eyes were watery. Just like Astria, she buried her head in the middle of her food and kept eating. If she didn't share Wu Yan's perceptive ability with her, Astria would have suspected that Ikaros is an impersonator. Finally, the noise in the room stopped. Ikaros and Astria let out a sigh of relief. Of course, Astria knew why she was relieved. Ikaros, on the other hand, didn't know why she was relieved. After a while, Wu Yin walked out of Inajika's room. His attire is neat and tidy. If it wasn't for his relaxed expression, others might have thought that he wasn't the culprit behind all of this. Master. Ikaros and Astria blushed at the same time when they saw Wu Yin. Then they called out to him softly. Wu Yin's expression turned awkward when he heard that. Coughing pretentiously, Wu Yin sat beside the two girls and greeted them as if nothing had happened. One can't help but sigh at how thick-skinned he is. Ikaros looked at Wu Yin with a blushing face. Wu Yin wanted to nibble on her again, but Ikaros acted like she didn't see it. She hesitated for a while before she mustered up her courage and spoke under Astria and Wu Yan's curious gaze. Master, if Master wants to do something fun, Ikaros can do it. Puffed. Cough, cough. Wu Yin and Astria spat out all the food in their mouths. They covered their mouths at the same time and started coughing violently. Master, Ikaros didn't know what to do with herself. Wu Yin raised his hand to signal that he's fine. He wiped his mouth and looked at Ikaros in shock. Ikaros, where did you learn that from? Hearing this, Ikaros lowered her head and clutched her short skirt with a bashful look. No one taught me that. I wanted to say it myself. You wanted to say it yourself? Wu Yin and Astria looked at each other in shock. Ikaros nodded and looked at Wu Yin. Her indigo eyes shone with a strange light. Because Master looked really happy, so Wu Yin went silent. He reached out and stroked Ikaros' hair. Ikaros, this kind of thing, if you don't want it, it's not like that. Ikaros interrupted Wu Yin before he could finish. Wu Yin was stunned. Ikaros looked away when she saw Wu Yan's stunned expression. Seeing how happy Master is, Ikaros is also happy. Looking at Ikaros in a daze, Wu Yin suddenly laughed. At the same time, he scolded himself for his stupidity. Ikaros isn't the same as she was at the start of the original work. She's an all-purpose angel who only entertains her master. How could he think that way? Rubbing Ikaros' head, Wu Yin met Ikaros' indigo eyes, and he whispered, Ikaros, I'm happy to see you happy. Then, Ikaros looked at Wu Yin expectantly. Her innocent gaze made Wu Yin feel uncomfortable. He helplessly said, Next time, let's talk about it when we have a chance, okay? Ikaros fiercely nodded and started eating. Her chopsticks danced in the air. She seemed to be in a good mood. Wu Yin looked at her with a smile. He was looking forward to it too. After all, he likes Ikaros a lot too. Astria threw away her bowl and chopsticks. She jumped in front of Wu Yin and shouted, Master, Astria can make Master happy too. Wu Yan's lips twitched. He looked at Astria, who was stunned by his words, and he didn't know what to say to her. This idiot, Master, Astria realized how embarrassing her words were. She opened and closed her mouth. I. I, 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 I. She realized she just said something embarrassing. Her eyes rolled up, and smoke started coming out of her head. Speechless, Wu Yin looked at Astria, who was shaking her head from side to side. He reached out his hand and rubbed Astria's head. Under her bashful gaze, he shook his head and laughed. Okay, I got it. Well, I need to be happy. I will look for you too, huh? Astria shrieked in shock. She jumped up and pointed at Wu Yin with a blushing face. Master, you idiot. Who wants to do something perverted with you? Astria, I'm not looking forward to it. Idiot, idiot. Wu Yan's expression kept changing until the word awkward hung on his face. Looking at Astria, who kept calling him an idiot, he felt really sad for his balls. Before Wu Yin could recover from his grief, a delicate fist smashed into his head, sending him sprawling on the table. His chin hit the table hard, and he howled in pain. Hinajika's fists were tightly clenched. On her pretty face, a part of the redness still hadn't subsided. It made Hinajiku's somewhat immature face even more charming. Even the culprit behind all of this was a little stunned. You bastard, in the middle of the day? Hinajiku closed her eyes. She's so embarrassed that she wanted to die. She punched him again. This time, Wu Yin managed to catch it. Wu Yin smiled at Chuju awkwardly. He shook his head and sighed. Are you trying to kill your husband? Chuju glared at Wu Yin. It would be best if I could kill you. Scratching his head, Wu Yin helplessly mumbled. What can I do? I was seduced as well. Don't tell me you wanted to make sure Ikaros can't get out of bed in broad daylight. What are you mumbling about over there? Hinajika's dangerous gaze landed on his face. She clenched her fists so hard that they made cracking noises. Looks like she's still holding a grudge against him for forcing himself on her again. In nothing, Wu Yin laughed dryly and shook his head. Chuju glared at Wu Yin. She looked at Wu Yan's smiling face and blushed again. She turned around and saw Ikaros and Astria's blushing face. She felt even more embarrassed. It's fine, my voice wasn't loud, they couldn't have heard me. Yep, that's right. After comforting herself, Hinajiko sat down on the table. At the same time, Ikaros' eyes suddenly flashed with a data frame. Master, the enemy has appeared. Ikaros' expression returned to normal. She looked at Wu Yin and whispered. Wu Yan's expression froze, and he sneered. Finally. Chapter 176. Academy City, School District 7, Wu Yan's house. No, to be precise, this is the house that the system gave to Wu Yin when he first arrived in Academy City. Even though Wu Yin doesn't have the currency of Academy City, Wu Yin had a lot of gold coins in the Spalier world. Even though most of them are in his gold card, the amount that Wu Yin has on him is more than enough to buy a house. On the second day of his arrival in Academy City, Wu Yin was already planning to buy another house. After all, this house isn't big. It can't fit 2 people, but Wu Yin has 4 people. Therefore, this house was abandoned by Wu Yin without hesitation. Of course, it wasn't completely useless. At least it helped Wu Yin attract a lot of unnecessary enemies. Hound Dog Unit. Item. At this time, the 2 Umbu organizations in Academy City have surrounded this house. The passers-by around it have been dispersed by them for some unknown reason. Now, all the people here are members of the Hound Dog Unit wearing synthetic armor. And standing in the middle of these people is the leader of the Hound Dog Unit, Kihara Amida, also Mujino Shizuri, Kinuha Tasai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku. Is the enemy inside? Kihara Amida said to a member of the Hound Dog Unit with an expressionless face. His voice is a bit low, but it's not hard to hear that he doesn't care. According to the detected data, a large number of military clones appeared last night and emitted electromagnetic waves with this building as the center. Combined with the other military clones' reactions to the missing body samples from the Misaka network, the enemy is most likely among them. Very likely? Kihara Amida suddenly smiled and looked at the reporting member. He grinned and said, You mean to say that the enemy's whereabouts is only a possibility? That member's back was soaked in sweat, but because he was wearing a thick armor, nothing could be seen. However, his trembling appearance could be clearly seen. Soon, with a gunshot, the member fell to the ground. The blood on his head flowed down his cheeks to the ground, evaporating the last bit of warmth. Kahara Amida did not even look at the corpse on the ground. He put away his gun, as if he had not killed a person, but a dog. Trash does not have a right to live in this world. This is one of the rules in Kihara Amida's heart. There is another rule, and that is, subordinates are nothing more than a group of scum that can be abandoned by their leader at any time after their value has been exhausted. The 4 members of Item frowned, but quickly recovered. It seems like they also know about Kihara Amida's personality. It's just that they don't seem to like him, except for Mujino Shizuri. Kahara Amida looked at the other members and the mechanical dogs that were sniffing around on the ground. He asked, "What's the reaction of the smell detector?" "Yes, there's indeed a human aura inside." "That's enough." Kahara Amida clapped his hands. "As long as it's inside, no matter who it is, kill them all." But the orders from the higher-ups, Kahara Amida glanced at the member who spoke, and that member stopped talking. Kahara Amida turned around and said, "The higher-ups only want the military clones. Why are they looking for them? They could just recreate them. As for whether the original source is willing to provide the DNA, that's not up to her." Wu Yin, who was hiding not too far away, heard Kahara Amida's words. His eyes flashed with a cold glint as he stared at Kihara Amida with a murderous intent. Ikaros and Astria sensed Wu Yan's murderous intent at the same time. Their faces turned cold as data flashed in their eyes. "All right, let's stop here. If we go any further, we will be discovered by Takitsubo Riku." The girls stopped moving. Wu Yin nodded and looked at Ikaros and Astria. "Ikaros, Astria, try not to use your wings, got it? Academy City is a scientific city, but Chairman Alistair isn't someone who believes in science. Before he founded Academy City, he was a magician. If Ikaros and Astria use their wings, they will be mistaken for angels. If Alistair finds out there are 2 angels in his territory, he will flip the entire Academy City upside down. That's why Wu Yin warned the girls. Of course, he meant try your best. If the girls are in any danger, he doesn't care if Academy City is overturned or not." "Yes, Master." Wu Yin nodded and exchanged a look with Chuju. The 2 of them leaped away, leaving Ikaros and Astria behind. Sky Queen mode on. After Wu Yin and Chuju left, Ikaros' pupils turned crimson red. A halo appeared on her head, and her hair swelled up. The wings of light that appeared with her in the past didn't appear this time. Ikaros hid them in her clothes. Compared to Ikaros, Astria didn't change at all. She took out a sword hilt with a blue gauntlet. Chrysor super vibrating photon blade. A blue lightsaber came out of the sword hilt. The body of the sword vibrated slightly, and the air surrounding the body of the sword was instantly wiped clean, leaving not even a bit of it behind. After adjusting themselves to their best condition, the 2 women took out 2 more capsules and swallowed them at the same time. Then, a miraculous scene happened. Ikaros and Astria's bodies distorted. 2 completely unfamiliar faces appeared on their faces. Even their bodies were distorted. The 2 of them became shorter by a few centimeters. Even Wu Yin wouldn't be able to recognize them if he didn't know what was going on. At the same time, the hounds had begun to invade the room. As long as they saw anything suspicious, they would fire at it with their submachine guns. Kahara Amida, on the other hand, was leading the way. Together with the other 4 members of Item, they headed towards the direction of Takitsubo Riku and the robot dog. When they passed by a room, the robot dog stopped. Takitsubo Riku pointed at the door and said with a complicated expression, "The target has been discovered." Mujino Shizuri and Kihara Amida laughed at the same time. Mujino Shizuri immediately raised her hand, and a meltdown atom burst through the door, breaking through the wall and smashing everything in the room into smithereens. However, Mujino Shizuri wasn't happy. Instead, her face turned dark. The veins on her forehead were throbbing. Kahara Amida narrowed his eyes. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. In the room, there wasn't even a bed, let alone a person. Only a few words were written on the wall in front of them, words that infuriated Mujino Shizuri and Kihara Amata. Take your time, idiot. Meltdown Atom was used. Mujino Shizuri turned her head to look at Takitsubu Riku after destroying the wall with the words, Takitsubu, didn't you say the target is here? Takitsubu Riku seemed to be a loss of what to do. She closed her eyes and carefully sensed for a moment. Her head also began to turn. Then, she stopped at the floor of the room. Looking at the few chips that were thrown on the floor, she pointed at them in astonishment. The target's AIM came from these chips. What did you say? Kihara Amada laughed in disdain. You're saying these chips can spread the AIM field? Huh, that's the funniest joke I've ever heard. Kinuhata Sai, who was standing at the back, was even more disdainful. Didn't your dog also discover the target's location? Kihara Amada's face turned dark. He clenched his teeth and kicked the smell detector robot dog into pieces. Right at this moment, something unexpected happened. Chapter 177. Screams of agony traveled into everyone's ears. Kihara Amata, Mujino Shizuri, and the others who were staring at the chip were stunned. What's going on? Kihara Amata frowned. A very ominous premonition suddenly rose in his heart. People like Kihara Amata always believed in their intuition. He immediately waved his hand. Go out and take a look. Just as Kihara Amata finished speaking, Takitsubu Riku looked out of the window and said, Mujino Shizuri, who has been working with Takitsubu Riku for a long time, seemed to understand what she meant. Did the target appear? Who knew? Takitsubu Riku shook her head. She was a little confused as she hesitantly said, It's not a target. It's two very unfamiliar targets. Mujino Shizuri didn't notice Takitsubu Riku's hesitation. However, Frenda and Kinuhata Sai, who were standing beside Takitsubu Riku, noticed it. They looked at each other in confusion. What they didn't know is that Takitsubu Riku is hesitating because the sudden appearance of the AIM field gave her a bad feeling. That's why she subconsciously hesitated. If Yin knew what Takitsubu Riku was thinking, he'd be shocked. Ikaros and Astria aren't aptitude users. This AIM field was forged by them using their own abilities. After all, Ikaros' identity in Academy City is LV4 if she doesn't have an AIM field. Wouldn't that mean there's a problem? As for Astria, she forgot her identity in Academy City, so just in case, Yin told her to forge one. Even if she's a useless aptitude user, she can still use the excuse that she suddenly leveled up with their abilities as angeloids. It's easy for them to forge a field. No matter how good the detector is, it won't be able to detect that the AIM field is fake. Takitsubu Riku, on the other hand, noticed something amiss. Regardless of what Takitsubu Riku was thinking, the current Mujino Shizuri would definitely not know. She was holding a ball of light in her hand. The ball of light formed by the meltdown of atoms was emitting a sickly green glow in her palm. Mujino Shizuri sneered. Just in time. I'm in a bad mood right now. Before Kinuhata Sai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku could react, Mujino Shizuri had already left. Hearing more and more screams and all kinds of noises outside, as well as the sound of his subordinates firing their submachine guns, Kihara Amada could no longer sit still. Of course, it wasn't because he cared about the safety of his subordinates. Without saying a word, Kihara Amada also walked out. Kinuhata Sai and Frenda looked at each other, then at Takitsubu Riku. Hey, Takitsubu, that guy shouldn't have appeared, right? When she said this, Kinuhata Sai's tone was filled with anticipation. Frenda also looked at Takitsubu Riku with the same expression. No. Takitsubu Riku shook her head unnaturally. Kinuhata Sai and Frenda heaved a sigh of relief. That's great. I'll be able to unleash my full strength. When everyone walked out of the house, the scene that appeared in front of them caused them to be involuntarily startled. They were astonished. The members of the Hounds raised the weapons in their hands and fired at the two unfamiliar women. One of them is standing far away, shooting out cherry-colored missiles from nowhere, causing the Hound Dog unit members to suffer heavy casualties. The other girl is holding a lightsaber, swinging it at the Hound Dog unit members who are close to her. Her smooth movements and exquisite taijutsu cause the Hound Dog unit members to either die or be heavily injured. In just a short moment, over 100 Hound Dog unit members are lying on the ground. Who are these two supergirls? Kinohata Asai looked at the two girls in surprise. Whether it is the destructive power of the missile-shooting girl or the exquisite taijutsu of the sword-wielding girl, they both made her very surprised. Kahara Amida raised his hand and said coldly, "I don't care who they are. Since they're here, let's kill them all." Hearing this, 3 of the 4 girls from Item disdained his words. Kahara Amida, who was arrogant but had no ability, they looked down on him from the bottom of their hearts. They wouldn't listen to his words that were like an order. Even Mujino Shizuri, who was about to attack, put away her meltdowner and stood to the side, watching the Hound Dog unit members being hunted down. Seeing that, Kahara Amida's eyes flashed with killing intent and hatred. Mujino Shizuri and the others looked down on him. Why would he look up to Mujino Shizuri and the others? In his eyes, the so-called ability users were nothing more than little white mice. But now is not the time to start a conflict with Mujino Shizuri and the others. He can only swallow his anger. But his face is tense. Looking at the struggling Hound Dog unit members on the ground, he cursed them a few times. "What are you doing? Quickly surround them," Kahara Amita coldly shouted, and at the same time gave the order. Team 1, Team 2, use your ranged weapons to shoot at the one with the sword. Team 3, Team 4, charge at the guy who fired the missile. Kahara Amida is indeed the leader of the Hound Dog unit. With just a few orders, the members who were panicking due to the heavy casualties started to attack in an orderly manner. Facing the sudden change in fighting style of the Hound Dog unit, Ikaros and Astria felt a little uncomfortable. Seeing this, Kahara Amida shouted at the other members, "Push that thing up." The 4 Item members looked at Kahara Amida in confusion, as if they didn't know what that was. The Item members, on the other hand, shouted yes, and pushed a car up. As soon as it was pushed up, the side box of the car was opened. As the side box was opened, something that looked like a stereo appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Seeing this stereo, Ikaros and Astria's expression turned serious. They looked at the stereo, and data started to flow in their eyes. But soon, the data in their eyes stopped, and they continued to attack the Hound Dog unit as if nothing happened. Under the puzzled gazes of the 4 Item members, Kahara Amida smiled sinisterly. "Capacity down device. Release it." Right after he said that, an ear-piercing sound was released from the stereo. Hearing this sound, Mujino Shizuri, Kinuhata Sai, Takitsubu Riku, and Frenda trembled. They covered their heads and squatted on the ground in pain. What the hell is going on? Kinuhata Sai screamed in pain, but Frenda and Takitsubu Riku were even worse than her. They couldn't speak at all. Kahara Amida didn't even frown when he saw Item's pained expression. Instead, he laughed and said, "I didn't think that Brat's invention would be so useful. You bastard." The moment Mujino Shizuri moved, she covered her head and knelt down again. She didn't even have the strength to glare at Kahara Amida. Kahara Amida smiled at them, as if he wanted to take revenge. However, the screams that came again made his smile freeze on his face. In his mind, the 2 girls who couldn't move due to the capacity-down device and were torn to shreds by his subordinates were still alive and kicking, harvesting the lives of his subordinates. Damn it! What capacity-down device? It's really useless. Kahara Amida's face was ashen. He didn't have the time to think about why the capacity-down device didn't work on the 2 women. Instead, he blamed everything on the capacity-down device. How would he know Ikaros and Astria don't have superpowers? How could they be affected by the device? The AIM that Takitsubu Riku detected was fake. Chapter 178. Artemis, Ikaros muttered under her breath. No one heard her, but it triggered a huge reaction. Countless cherry-colored lights shot out from her back and landed in the middle of the Hound Dog unit in a blink of an eye. The moment the missiles landed, The people in the center were blown away. They laid on the ground and couldn't get up anymore. Those who were closer to them were also caught in the blast. Screams of agony filled the air. Compared to Ikaros, Astrea was much more straightforward. She waved her Chrysor around like a tiger, slaughtering whoever came her way. She might be slower than Ikaros, but it was still clean. She paved a path for those who fell under her feet. The veins on Kahara Amida's forehead were bulging. Clearly, he was enraged to the extreme. However, his expression did not change. He glanced at Mujino Shizuri and the other three who were clutching their heads in pain and snorted coldly. With a wave of his hand, the capacity-down device was turned off. "You bastard!" The moment the voice stopped, Mujino Shizuri went berserk. She grabbed a meltdowner in her hand and was about to throw it at Kihara Amida. Kihara Amida was expressionless. He only said one sentence. "Is this okay? You should know that we Hound Dog Unit are directly under the orders of the higher-ups." Mujino Shizuri's expression changed. Her meltdowner dimmed as well. Kihara Amida turned his head and looked at Ikaros and Astrea. "Let's think of a way to deal with those two first. You guys don't want to fail the mission, right?" Mujino Shizuri looked at Kihara Amida with a dark expression. She waved her hand at Wu Yan's house and blasted the wall with her meltdowner. Mujino Shizuri threw out a few more meltdowners before looking at Ikaros and Astrea. A dangerous glint flashed in her eyes. "That guy is going to suffer." Kinuhata Sai gloated at Kihara Amida. She knew that Mujino Shizuri's gaze wasn't directed at the two girls. Mujino is a vengeful person. Frenda rubbed her head cutely and spread her hands. In the end, that dog thought that he could live peacefully by relying on the people above him. Even if she didn't kill him, Mai had her ways to make him suffer. Poor guy. Kihara Amida didn't hear Kinuhata Sai and Frenda's conversation. Even if he did, he probably wouldn't care. Mujino Shizuri and the others probably don't understand that the higher-ups Kihara Amida mentioned aren't the useless people in the board of directors at this moment. Mujino Shizuri has already walked out. Slowly walking to the front of the hounds, Mujino Shizuri raised her voice. "You guys came at the wrong time. Just in time. I've suffered enough today." After that, several orbs of light suddenly appeared around Mujino Shizuri and circled around her. Then, without warning, meltdowners shot out from the orbs towards Ikaros. It wasn't that Mujino Shizuri recognized Ikaros' identity. It's just that Ikaros is far more of a threat to her than Astrea. After all, Astrea is a close-range fighter. Meltdowners are perfect against close-range opponents. Ikaros looked at the incoming meltdowner atom. Her eyes flashed, and the trajectory of the meltdowner atom was calculated. She dodged the meltdowner atom and looked at Mujino Shizuri with her crimson eyes. Even though she can't use absolute defense circle for the sake of her master, Wu Yin didn't say that she can't initiate an attack. Artemis. The cherry-colored missile with a cherry-colored glow streaked across the air. Under everyone's gaze, it came from Mujino Shizuri. Mujino Shizuri reached out her hand and drew a circle in front of her. Following her movement, the meltdowners were pulled into a circular fan shape. The missiles were melted into powder the moment they came into contact with the fan shape. After all the missiles were melted into powder, Mujino Shizuri looked at Ikaros. She saw an afterimage charging at her, and her pupils shrunk. Ikaros raised a fist, and under Mujino Shizuri's horrified expression, she punched her in the stomach. "Ah!" Mujino Shizuri reflexively covered her stomach and lowered her head, only to see a knee raised towards her face under everyone's stunned gaze. Ikaros' knee landed on Mujino Shizuri's face and sent her flying. She fell to the ground and fainted. "That's super impossible." Kinuhata Sai couldn't believe it. Their captain was defeated by the opponent in a single exchange. Frenda and Takitsubu Riku were also stunned and couldn't recover from their shock. Kihara Amida clenched his fists when he saw Mujino Shizuri being defeated in an instant. The way he looked at Ikaros and Astrea changed. At least he didn't look at them with the same disdain as before. Even LV5 was defeated in a single exchange. How could Kihara Amida still looked down on them. Actually, Mujino Shizuri's defeat was understandable. After all, she neglected Ikaros's close combat ability. Not just her, even Wu Yin forgot that Ikaros's close combat ability is also very strong. Even if it's not as good as Astria, who specializes in close combat, it's not something any random person can match up to. At the very least, in this academy city, other than Wu Yin, Hinajuku, Astria, and Aiwa, Ikaros is the strongest in terms of melee combat. However, compared to her long-range attack, Ikaros's close combat ability is much weaker. That's why everyone neglected the fact that Ikaros can also fight in close combat. Mujino Shizuri's defeat can be attributed to her carelessness. She saw Ikaros didn't use close combat and thought she wouldn't be able to fight in close combat. Of course, if she fought Ikaros seriously, she would have lost without a doubt. Where the hell did these two strong women come from? Kihara Amada gritted his teeth. He's at his wit's end. 2/3 of his men are down, and Item's women are probably unreliable. He can only rely on external forces. What else can he do? At this time, Kihara Amada's communicator suddenly rang. Kihara Amada was stunned. He picked it up and looked at it. His face was completely filled with anger. He slammed the communicator in his hand on the ground. Kihara Amada was breathing heavily. He even let out a few low growls. Damn it, I've been completely fooled. What's going on? Kanuhata Sayai asked subconsciously. However, her eyes were still on Ikaros and Astria, who weren't far away from her. Kihara Amada lowered his head and said in a low voice, "The research facility was infiltrated again." Infiltrated? Frenda was shocked. You mean, these guys are in cahoots? They used a trick to lure us here, and the mastermind invaded the unguarded research facility. It seems that these two women are just bait. After that, he ignored the stunned Kinuhata Sayai, Takitsubu Riku and Frenda, and shouted at the Hound Dog unit members. Everyone retreat. The Hound Dog unit members stopped in their tracks and slowly retreated to the sides. Too bad they didn't ask for permission from their master. Artemis. Following the loud boom, the sound of missiles bombarding the area was heard. What followed was the screams of the Hound Dog unit members. They aren't going to keep them here, right? Frenda, Kinuhata Sayai, and Takitsubu Riku, who rescued Mujino Shizuri, looked at each other and retreated. What does the Hound Dog unit's survival have to do with them? Retreat. All of you retreat. Only the screams of the Hound Dog unit members and Kihara Amada's furious roar could be heard. Chapter 179. That day, the hounds were almost completely wiped out. Only a few of them managed to escape, with Kihara Amada, who was hit by a stray bullet. The hounds are basically nothing now. Of course, when Kihara Amada recovers, he will definitely form the hounds again. However, by then, most of the Misaka sisters would have been rescued by Wu Yin. Item had 1 injured and 3 unharmed. Even though they didn't suffer a lot of casualties, they still managed to retreat in a sorry state. This time, the hounds and Item who came to stop the so-called intruders could only be declared as failures. Not only that, but the military clones that were originally gathered by the Research Institute for Protection were almost all stolen by the sudden intruders. Almost all of the Misaka sisters disappeared. Even the Misaka sisters who participated in the project and were killed by Accelerator were all stolen. In the end, only a few hundred of the Misaka sisters were rescued by the Research Institute during the chaos. The rest were all stolen. Almost everyone related to the Absolute Aptitude User Evolution Project started smashing things in their homes. The main person in charge of the project, Amai Ayo, fainted when he heard the news. With only a few hundred Misaka sisters left, the Absolute Aptitude User Evolution Plan can no longer continue. It can only be frozen and hope that one day, the missing Misaka sisters can be found or the original DNA can be retrieved. Then they can come back and take a look. As for the Absolute Aptitude User Evolution Project promoter, Amaeo, he escaped with a huge amount of money on his back. No one knows where he went. This incident can be considered to have come to an end. Of course, the higher-ups know that this is only temporary. Right now, The entire project is leaning towards the missing person notice. The people living in Academy City didn't know that on the surface of peace, the undercurrents were so turbulent that they could bury even the tiniest trespassers. Academy City School District 7, inside the windowless building. What do you plan to do? A voice that seemed to come from the heavens, mixed with a lot of busy tones, sounded in this strange space. As the voice came out, the air in this space seemed to condense, and it was very heavy. Alistair's unchanging body floated slightly in the culture tank filled with liquid. He wasn't surprised by the sudden voice, but remained silent. After learning his lesson several times, Alistair was no longer doing useless things. He knew that his greatest intelligence-gathering ability, the hovering loop, was useless against the mastermind this time. Therefore, he didn't check the images of the scene. After listening to the report, he remained in this state. Are you planning to give up? Alistair finally reacted a little. To be more precise, he took some action. A projection screen appeared in front of him. Looking at the image on the screen, Alistair didn't say anything. He knew that the owner of the voice knew what he meant. And the image on the screen was Mikoto herself. It's not like you to take this step. His voice was still as calm as an ancient well. Although it was very strange, it was not difficult to hear the indifference in it. Of course, to him, nothing really mattered. When Alistair heard this, he immediately turned off the projection screen and closed his eyes. After a long time, he finally said something. Stop, it's not like me at all. On the other side, in Wu Yan's house, of course, it wasn't the house that was smashed full of holes by Mujino Shizuri and Kahara Yamada. It was Wu Yan's new house. Wu Yan was sitting on the ground with a small notebook in his hand. His hand didn't move, but the contents on the screen kept changing. Only a small amount of electricity flowed from Wu Yan's hand into the small notebook. After completing the last step, Wu Yan stopped the electricity in his hand. Putting away the notebook, Wu Yan stretched lazily, feeling very satisfied. How could he not be satisfied? This time, not only did he make a fool out of those hateful hounds, causing them to suffer heavy casualties, he even almost managed to save his sisters. Now, the sisters in Wu Yan's biocontainment device, including the ones he saved with his genetic life serum, number more than 19,000. As long as he can save the remaining few hundred sisters, Mikoto's wish will be fulfilled. His first mission will also be completed. Now that almost all of his sisters are in his hands, the Absolute Aptitude User Evolution Project can no longer be carried out. In the future, there shouldn't be any more sisters dying. Although the sisters can be brought back to life, Wu Yan doesn't want them to go through the experience of death. So, it's best if there are no casualties. Wu Yan knows that the remaining few hundred sisters won't be that easy to save. With their numbers reduced, the Research Institute will have more manpower to protect them. From now on, he can only take it slow. Looking at the notebook in his hand, Wu Yan smiled. Mikoto's ability is really useful. If it wasn't for this ability, I would have to ask Ikaros to erase the records of my cheap house. Facing those so-called scientific researchers, how could Wu Yan not think of anything? Although he admits that he can't be compared to Alistair in terms of intelligence, Wu Yan still has the ability to deal with those people who have lost their minds. Fortunately, with Mikoto's ability, it's easy for her to tamper with any data. This saved Wu Yan a lot of unnecessary trouble. Touching the biocontainment device on his wrist, Wu Yan couldn't help but smile. When he thought of the sisters in there, he couldn't help but want to let them out and interact with them. It's a pity that once they are released, Wu Yan's house would probably be surrounded by them. Also, the sisters are still recovering their bodies. Unlike the instant effect of genetic life supplement, the healing effect of genetic perfection supplement is a slow process. Well, take it slow. Wu Yan looked at the biocontainment device and smiled at it. It's as if he's talking to the sisters. Mikoto is also very happy. A voice suddenly came from behind Wu Yan, startling Wu Yan. He turned around, and when he saw the owner of the voice, he helplessly shook his head. Don't you know that you can scare people to death? Chuju. Chuju flipped her beautiful pink hair without a care and sat in front of Wu Yan. She said, I talked to Mikoto on the phone. Mikoto already knows what happened last night. She's very happy. So many sisters were saved. Wu Yin heard this and rolled his eyes at Chuju. You're still on the phone. Aren't you afraid of being monitored? Chuju, on the other hand, was disdainful. Since you already thought of it, I don't believe you didn't prepare at all. Wu Yin spread his hands and smiled proudly. Chuju looked at him with hatred and resisted the urge to bite him. Chuju thought of something and sighed. I really didn't expect there to be so many people who are exactly like Mikoto, Wu Yin laughed. If the sisters know you call them people, they'll be very happy. Chuju also laughed. Yeah, they're happy because of something that's only natural. How cute. I also want a sister. Wu Yin heard Chuju's words and looked at Chuju. He stared at her until she felt uncomfortable, and then he said with an evil smile, well, if you want a sister, I can't help it. Wu Yin moved to Chuju's side and hugged her under Chuju's surprised cry. But if you want a daughter, I can help you. Chuju's face suddenly turned red. What did I say? I don't want. Wu. Chapter 180. The plan to evolve absolute ability users was put on hold. The matter came to a close. Wu Yin also had some free time. Now that the sisters don't have to die anymore, he has plenty of time to save them. As long as he grinds it out, even if it's one a day, he will be able to save all of them. During the day, Wu Yin would take a stroll around Academy City with a group of beautiful girls. He would set off flashbangs all over Academy City. It's quite a joyous occasion. At night, he would have sex without any shame. Of course, his partner is still Chuju. As for Ikaros and Astria, Wu Yin doesn't have the guts to push them down yet. Even if Ikaros and Astria said they wanted to make Wu Yin happy, Wu Yin wouldn't dare to push them down in public with Kaisha-sama at home. That's why he needs the right time, the right place, the right people. Wu Yin's words. Of course, Wu Yin would occasionally go back to being a cat burglar and try to steal one or two Misaka's sisters. However, the sisters are now heavily protected. Even Wu Yin can't do anything without being exposed. Under such circumstances, Wu Yin could only steal one or two Misaka sisters when the researchers weren't paying attention. The rest of the time, he would have to return empty-handed. As time passed, Wu Yin became frustrated, but he still persisted in visiting in hopes of finding an opportunity or two. Apart from this, Wu Yin seems to have returned to being a normal person. He's living a normal life, enjoying the treatment that he could only see on the screen. As for Mikoto, that girl would come to Wu Yin's place every 2 to 3 days. Her excuse is that she's too bored, but no one believes her. If that was the case, it wouldn't be a big deal. After all, Wu Yin has seen plenty of the tsundere Misaka Mikoto. However, every time Mikoto visits, there would be a Yuri girl with 2 ponytails following her around. This perverted creature, Kuriko, would often bare her fangs at Wu Yin when Mikoto couldn't see. She looked like she wanted to eat Wu Yin alive. This gave Wu Yin a headache. It also made Wu Yin, who was looking forward to another flight together with her. Mikoto also felt awkward. She doesn't know why, but Kuriko has been sticking to her. Every time Mikoto goes out, she would make a fuss and insist on following her. There were a few times when she didn't even go to the disciplinary committee. Mikoto has a headache. Wu Yin was probably the only one who knew that the Yuri girl was following him around to prevent Mikoto from being violated by him. However, she didn't know that Mikoto had already been violated by him. If she knew, Wu Yin is sure that he would have a few more steel needles inserted in his body every day. Mikoto and Kuriko's arrival caused the other 2 cute creatures of the Super Canon Quartet to come to Mikoto's place frequently. They mingled with Ikaros, Astria, Chuju, and the others. They also left Wu Yin to the side, leaving Wu Yin to mourn in a corner. Hanajiku and the rest were very happy with the arrival of the Super Canon Quartet, because every time they came, they would bring with them 1 or 2 strange adventure stories. The Void Explosion Incident, Fantasy Mataru Incident, Fantasy Beast Incident, and Open Up Incident happened every few days. Astria's eyes lit up every time she saw the Super Gunner Quartet. She was looking forward to hearing new stories to listen to. Every time this happens, Wu Yin would sit alone in a corner and listen to the so-called adventure stories from Mikoto and the others. His mouth would twitch and his lower body would ache. His entire body would feel like it was in pain. Can't you see the plot? I've seen it countless times on the screen. It had already been replayed dozens of times, hadn't it? I can't afford to be hurt. Can't you see? Can't you see? On the other hand, Wu Yin couldn't help but sigh in relief when he heard that the plot didn't change. At least this forbidden world is still the forbidden world he's familiar with. Time passed by peacefully until one day. Master, Wu Yin, who was browsing on the computer, turned around when he heard Ikaro's voice. When he saw Ikaros, Wu Yin couldn't help but be stunned. The current Ikaros is getting more and more emotional. Even though Ikaros would only change when she's with him or talking about him, the effect is very good. Now, whenever Wu Yin stares at Ikaros' eyes for more than 3 seconds, Ikaros would blush and turn her head away. That cute look made Wu Yin think she's cute. Ikaros would also appear in Wu Yin's room every morning and get bullied by Wu Yin once or twice. This caused her ample bosom to become unrestrained under the cover of her clothes. This caused Ikaros' charm to increase by several percentage points. Facing Ikaros, who is getting prettier by the day, even Wu Yin, who has been looking at this face every day, even if he has kissed this face, he would still be in a daze from time to time. This is a testament to Ikaros' charm. Seeing her master staring at her in a daze again, Ikaros couldn't help but blush. She lowered her head. Only then did Wu Yin come back to his senses. Rubbing his nose, Wu Yin smiled at Ikaros. At the same time, he called her a vixen in his heart. Looking at Ikaros' hot body, Wu Yin felt that it wouldn't be strange if one day he couldn't hold it in and pushed her down. What's the matter? Ikaros. Ikaros fidgeted for a bit before handing a letter to Wu Yin. Master, just now, someone brought you a letter like this. He said it's for you. A letter for me? Wu Yin looked at the letter in Ikaros' hand in surprise. He scratched his head suspiciously and took it. Casually flipping through it a couple of times, he's puzzled. Logically speaking, he didn't have any acquaintances when he was assigned the identity by the system. And after coming to Academy City, he didn't know anyone either who would send him something. As for Makoto and the rest, Wu Yin directly rejected that idea. They come here every day. If they want to give him something, they can just take it. Why would they send it? Unable to figure out, Wu Yin tore the envelope open. What entered his eyes was a red envelope with a golden border. On the envelope, there were 3 big words written on it. Invitation letter? Wu Yin was even more puzzled. Looking at the 3 small words at the bottom right corner of the letter, Wu Yin was surprised again. Tokawadai? Could it be the Tokawadai Midsummer Festival invitation letter from the original work? Wu Yin suddenly had a flash of inspiration and then shook his head to deny it. If it really is that Midsummer Festival, Makoto, who came this morning, would have invited him. Searching the letter again, Wu Yin saw that there was another letter inside. Immediately, he picked up the milk tea on the side and opened it while drinking. A very elegant and beautiful line of words was imprinted into Wu Yin's vision. To the beloved Wu Yin, sir. Sir Wu Yin, greetings. Sorry to disturb you. If there is any inconvenience, please forgive me, sir. When I was at Tokawadai, this concubine had heard of your name. This concubine was very curious about you. Since the day I heard of your name, this concubine could not forget about you. She wished that she could personally talk to you. This concubine's thoughts were, today, I really can't hold back my desire to see your excellency. Therefore, I personally wrote an invitation letter and handed it to your excellency. I hope that your excellency will not be stingy and will be able to meet me. I am extremely grateful to your excellency. Looking at this genteel and ambiguous letter, more like a love letter than an invitation letter, Wu Yin helplessly shook his head. At the same time, he sighed in his heart. As expected of someone from Tokawadai, there was both a concubine and sir. The style of a big miss is undeniable. However, this also made Wu Yin certain that the owner of this letter was definitely not Makoto. If Makoto could write such a genteel letter, she wouldn't be Makoto. When Wu Yin saw the signature at the bottom, his eyes suddenly widened, and he spat out the milk tea in his mouth and cried out involuntarily. How could it be her? Chapter 181. Academy City School, District 7, Tokawadai. Wu Yin stood in front of a door that was much taller than the wall. He looked at the inspection facility in front of him. For some reason, he couldn't bring himself to walk in. He was still holding the invitation letter that made him want to spit out milk. Wu Yin had mixed feelings. He didn't know what kind of expression he should use to face what's about to come. After all, why would they invite a person like him who has no accomplishments in Academy City and is even considered a delinquent in his personal records to come here? Being familiar with the original plot, even if his IQ is limitless, he would have more or less guessed the reason. It's probably because of Mikoto. Looking at the name on the invitation, Wu Yan's lips twitched, but he said with certainty. That's why Wu Yan didn't bring Ikaros and Astria with him. Who knew what that black-bellied guy was plotting again? If Mikoto finds out that I've come all the way here to look for someone as annoying as her, she'll definitely give me an electric shock without a second thought. That guy, don't tell me he's just trying to flirt with me and then inform Mikoto to catch me, this kind of plot from the 8 o'clock TV. Wu Yan made up a story with a fake smile. He sighed and walked towards the door. Screw it. If worst comes to worst, I'll just F***CK her up. Walking on a small path, Wu Yan looked around and felt a bit puzzled. He thought that he would go through layers upon layers of checks before being released. After all, he's a guy who wouldn't be at ease if he came to a place where there are only girls. Who would have thought that after he showed the invitation in his hand, there would be no obstructions along the way? Of course, along the way, the girls would look at him as if he was a prehistoric beast or a beast. Wu Yan, Sama, this is the place. My mistress is waiting for you inside. After walking for some time, the girl who came out of nowhere to lead the way stopped in front of the building and said respectfully to Wu Yan. Of course, if you look closely, you'll notice that the girl kept looking at Wu Yan with suspicion. If you look closely, you'll notice she's the girl from Tokawadai who saw Wu Yan and Mikoto going out on a date. Wu Yan stopped and looked at the building in front of him. With Wu Yan's eyesight, he saw a girl with long blonde hair sitting in front of a table on the balcony on the second floor of the building. When he saw this figure, Wu Yan thought to himself. Then, under the guidance of the Tokawadai girl, he walked inside. She had long blonde hair and a voluptuous and perfect figure. She was wearing Tokawadai's school uniform, but her hands and feet were covered in white long gloves and stockings with spiderweb patterns. She was a beautiful girl that people couldn't take their eyes off of at first glance. She closed her eyes and sat in front of a white, round table. She held a cup of tea in her hand and placed it next to her seductive mouth. She was drinking it little by little. Her movements were very elegant. With one look, you can tell she's a typical rich young lady. Beautiful girl, red tea, balcony, blue sky, and white clouds. These four images formed a moving scene. Even Wu Yan, who knew the character of the girl in front of him, couldn't help but sigh at how beautiful this scene was. As for the Tokawadai girl who led Wu Yan, she was already intoxicated by the scene. Her eyes were filled with deep infatuation. Looking at the beautiful blonde girl, and then looking at the guide who was immersed in the other party's world, he felt helpless. The two of them aren't going to stay in this stalemate, are they? Wu Yan didn't have the patience to stand here and watch the beauty drink tea. Although looking at beauties was a good pastime, it was only to the extent of passing the time. In his home, there were many beautiful girls who weren't inferior to the former. Wu Yan might have cultivated a lot of immunity during this period of time. Therefore, Wu Yan didn't hesitate to break the scene and walked over. His action not only woke up the Tokawadai girl who led the way, it also shocked her. She, a woman, had already lost herself in the other party's world. How could this seemingly ordinary? How could a man like that remain unmoved? Is he not a man? If Wu Yan knew what the Tokawadai girl was thinking, he might want to take off his pants. Perhaps hearing Wu Yan's footsteps, the blonde girl paused and slowly put down the cup in her hand. She looked in Wu Yan's direction and opened her eyes. In an instant, heaven and earth seemed to be overshadowed. The sky seemed to have lost all color. Nothing was left except for the pair of golden eyes that were like stars falling from the night sky. They were shining faintly. Stopping, Wu Yan looked at the pair of starry eyes that he had seen countless times on the screen. After being stunned for a moment, he couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. What a beautiful pair of eyes! The girl, who had an indifferent expression and graceful demeanor, suddenly froze. Her expression changed abruptly after Wu Yin said that. She looked at Wu Yin with a look of disbelief. Wu Yin felt a bit helpless. Although it's not a bad thing to have a beauty staring at you in a daze, it's a bit unnatural to be stared at like that, right? Wu Yin shrugged and said, I say, Queen Sama, can you not look at me like that? This sentence caused the stunned girl to be even more stunned. She even asked in surprise, you know me? Shokuho Misaki, who blurted out her thoughts, immediately realized what she meant. She scolded herself for being stupid. Wu Yin laughed out loud when he heard her. One of Tokuwadai's 2 LV5s, ranked 5th in Academy City, mind control Shokuho Misaki. Who in Academy City doesn't know her? Please tell me. I'll help you beat her up. Shokuho Misaki was stunned for a moment before she burst out laughing. She covered her mouth with the back of her hand and laughed softly. Her queen-like personality is unmistakable. Sir Wu Yin sure is a humorous person. Shokuho Misaki's starry eyes curved into crescents. She looked very sweet. Inviting your excellency here was indeed the right choice. Wu Yin smiled and walked to the opposite side of Shokuho Misaki. Under the incredulous gaze of the Tokuwadai girl, he sat down in front of Shokuho Misaki. Then, Queen Sama, can you tell me why you call me here? Shokuho Misaki looked at Wu Yin and said with a smile, Ira, didn't I say I wanted to talk to Sir? Talk. Wu Yin also smiled and shook his head. He jokingly said, Queen Sama, do you really believe that a beauty who can get hundreds of thousands of people to come to her door when she says she wants to talk to someone in Academy City would write an invitation letter to a hooligan who has nothing better to do all the time for a talk? Shokuho Misaki calmed down and casually raised the cup in front of her and drank from it. Suddenly, a burst of electric sparks appeared in front of Wu Yan. The sudden flash of electric sparks made Wu Yan's eyes hurt, and he could only raise his hand to block them. Electromagnetic barrier? Seeing this, Shokuho Misaki was shocked. How could she not have seen this phenomenon before? This was obviously the railgun, the electromagnetic shield that Misaka Mikoto used to defend against her ability. Wu Yan narrowed his eyes. His heart was filled with helplessness. Looks like this cute thing with a great body didn't have any good intentions. If he didn't have the same ability as Mikoto, he would have been under her control by now. Wu Yan helplessly said to the stunned Shokuho Misaki, Are you satisfied now? Chapter 182. Why do you have the same ability as Misaka Mikoto? Shokuho Misaki held the remote in her hand. Her face was full of disbelief. Not only because Wu Yin could resist her ability, but also because this familiar scene surprised her. Others might think that Wu Yan's ability is the same as the third person's ability. After all, in Academy City, there are a lot of people who can use electricity. But even if he can fool everyone, he can't fool the Tokuwadai Empress, Shokuho Misaki, who doesn't look like a high school student at all, an ability that can completely resist her ability. And it's the ability of her nemesis. How could Shokuho Misaki not have studied it before? Even if she mistook the ability of everyone in Academy City, Shokuho Misaki wouldn't mistake Misaka Mikoto's ability. Wu Yin smiled nonchalantly. He glanced at the remote in Shokuho Misaki's hand and said cheekily, You want to know? Too bad I'm not telling you. Hearing Wu Yan's teasing, Shokuho Misaki's eyebrows twitched. She realized that she lost her composure. She couldn't help but be angry at herself. After all, she's only seen Wu Yin for a short while, and she's already lost her composure countless times. This is something that would never happen in the past. Unfortunately, whether it's Wu Yan's lack of concern about her charm, or his heartfelt praise for her pair of monstrous eyes, or his ability that's exactly the same as Misaka Mikoto's, it's all challenging Shokuho Misaki's mental barrier. Shokuho Misaki originally thought that no matter what happens, she can face it calmly. After all, she has the ability to control her heart. She's seen countless darkness. She's been ruthlessly honed. But this man in front of her His actions made Shoko Misaki's originally calm heart flutter. She looked at the cheeky Wu Yin with a complicated expression. Shoko Misaki quickly collected her emotions and returned to her usual calm self. Shoko Misaki calmly put away the remote in her hand and grumbled. I didn't expect you to have such an annoying ability. Wu Yin couldn't help but smile bitterly. Well, this ability is indeed annoying to Shoko Misaki. But this Shoko Misaki isn't as simple as she looks. Even a child knows that abilities can't be exactly the same, but she's still able to remain so calm after knowing his ability, as expected of mental control ability. What he didn't know is that after hiding her complicated feelings, Shoko Misaki's attitude towards Wu Yin changed from one of playfulness to one of curiosity. He was unrestrained and unrestrained, and he was able to deal with things indifferently in front of her. His every word was incomparably casual, yet there was no flaw at all. How could such a person be a hoodlum? Even if Shoko Misaki believed that the man in front of her was a woman, she didn't believe that he was a hoodlum. On top of that, she seemed to be in a relationship with a third person, and that person had the exact same ability as her. Shoko Misaki's curiosity towards the man in front of her has reached a boiling point. Looking at Shoko Misaki's starry eyes, Wu Yin felt a headache coming on. He used to like Queen Mo, but now that he's in front of her, Wu Yin knows that she's a woman you either don't mess with, or you have to be prepared to be eaten by her. Is the queen that easy to conquer? Wu Yin thinks that's nonsense. If he's in a relationship with the queen, then if he can't conquer her, then he can only be conquered. So, at least for now, Wu Yin doesn't have any thoughts towards the queen. Of course, that's only for now. Sighing helplessly, Wu Yin half-jokingly said, I say, Jusama, if you look at me like that, I'll feel embarrassed. Shoko Misaki smiled. Can't help it. I'm really curious about you. What he said was indeed true. Curious about me? Wu Yin rolled his eyes at Shoko Misaki. I think you're just curious about who's with Mikoto. Hearing this, Shoko Misaki paused for a moment, then laughed softly. Era, it seems like you're really related to our Tokuwadai's electric princess. Wu Yin pursed his lips. If I'm not related to Mikoto, then I don't think you'd come looking for me. Jusama, I'll explain it to you right here. Oh, I like to hear the details. Maintaining the same smile, Shoko Misaki looked at Wu Yin, but her heart couldn't help but flutter. The one talking to him is me, someone who has countless supporters. This guy, he actually looks like he's impatient with me. Does he dislike me that much? Wu Yin looked at Shoko Misaki, then suddenly stood up and reached out his hand. Under Shoko Misaki's stunned expression and the Tokuwadai girl who led the way, Wu Yin lifted her chin and said frivolously, Jusama, don't worry about guarding your Tokuwadai. Mikoto won't participate in your turf war game, so you don't have to keep targeting her. It's meaningless. Shoko Misaki's eyes narrowed. A bit of anger appeared in her heart. She looked at Wu Yin with stubbornness and persistence. After all, what she's been doing was called a game. How could it not be popular? Seeing Shoko Misaki's expression, Wu Yin knew she didn't take his words seriously. He could only helplessly shake his head, look straight into her eyes, and said disapprovingly, Maybe you think I'm talking big, but what I want to say is Mikoto is destined to not stay in this small Tokuwadai. She has a bigger world waiting for her. That's where she shines. A bigger world? Shoko Misaki was shocked. Wu Yin didn't look like he was joking. At this moment, she suddenly hoped that this young man in front of her was really just a hooligan who knows how to talk big. Yes, Wu Yin said in a daze. Chapter 183. Holding Shoko Misaki's hand, the two hid in a corner, watching a group of Tokuwadai girls shouting Jo-sama, while rushing towards them like a swarm of locusts. Only then did Wu Yin bring Shoko Misaki out. Speechless, Wu Yin looked at the giggling Shoko Misaki, speechless. You sure have a lot of fans. Shoko Misaki stroked her hair and smiled faintly. That's why. It's better if you don't kidnap people by force in the future. Wu Yin pursed his lips. He knows that Shoko Misaki is unhappy with him for dragging her out. Actually, he didn't know why, but he just ran away with Shokouho Misaki on a whim. If it's a date, he was just joking, but since he brought her out, he might as well go on a date. After all, he's the one taking advantage of her. Okay, the annoying guy's gone. Let's go on a date like we agreed, Josama. Wu Yin looked at the frozen Shoko Misaki and said with a weird smile. Hearing Wu Yan's weird tone, Shokouho Misaki was a bit confused. Wu Yin didn't know why he suddenly dragged her out for a date, but how could Shokouho Misaki not know why she followed Wu Yin to avoid her subordinates? Originally, she said she wanted to be Wu Yan's date because she didn't want him to ignore her, so she made a joke. But now, she can't back down. However, as the fifth master of Academy City, mind control, toying with people's minds was nothing out of the ordinary, including her own. Shokouho Misaki only needed to modify her mind a little before she calmed down. I'm looking forward to my date with you as well, Shokouho Misaki said in a serious tone. Wu Yin frowned when he saw how different Shoko Misaki is compared to before. Wu Yin reached out and poked Shokouho Misaki's forehead, causing her to yelp in pain. Don't show off your ability. Otherwise, you won't be happy about the date later. Shokouho Misaki rubbed her forehead. Hearing Wu Yan's words, she froze for a moment and went silent. Silently shutting down her ability, Shokouho Misaki mocked herself. Yeah, this annoying ability. How can it make me happy? Shokouho Misaki didn't know that her whispers were clearly heard by Wu Yin. Wu Yin turned to look at Shokouho Misaki and shook his head helplessly. Everyone in Academy City had their own stories. Makoto was one, and so was Shokouho Misaki. Wu Yin grabbed Shokouho Misaki's hand and pulled her out of the room before she could react. Since it's an ability you don't like, then don't use it. You don't want to use it? Shokouho Misaki looked at Wu Yin. Of course, being held back, she could only see Wu Yan's back. That's easy for you to say. You don't understand anything at all. No, I understand. Wu Yin didn't even turn his head as he replied, shocking Shokouho Misaki. That's because I understand. Hearing Wu Yan's words, Shokouho Misaki lowered her head and looked at her hand in silence. No boy has ever held her hand before. This reckless guy, I really want to break free from him. That's what she thought, but she didn't do it. Even she herself found it hard to believe. Not knowing what's going on, she just let Wu Yin pull her hand and walked away. Walking on the streets of Academy City, Shokouho Misaki looked at the people around her, exclaiming and pointing at her from time to time. She could faintly hear words like pretty, beautiful, but most of them were eyes, stars so strange, and so on. Shokouho Misaki gritted her teeth and lowered her head. She even closed her eyes, but doing so only made the whispers of the people around her clearer. Shokouho Misaki opened her eyes in anger. Her computing power started to go crazy. She couldn't stand the people pointing at her. She decided to brainwash them. But before she could use her ability, she felt a sharp pain in her hand that was being held by Wu Yin. The calculations in her mind were replaced by pain, and she stopped. You? Shokouho Misaki, who wanted to scold Wu Yin, glared at Wu Yin. But when she saw the helpless smile on Wu Yan's face, she couldn't bring herself to scold him. Wu Yin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He looked at Shokouho Misaki and said angrily, I say, did you make a mistake somewhere? What do you mean? Shokouho Misaki frowned. She didn't seem to understand what Wu Yin meant. Wu Yin shook his head and said to her, Did you see those gazes on you? Shokouho Misaki turned silent. Wu Yin helplessly poked her forehead with his finger, causing her to yelp in pain. He continued, You saw the gazes on you and the words they used to talk about you. Why didn't you notice the gazes on me and the words they used to talk about me? Shokouho Misaki, who was still holding her forehead, was startled. She looked around suspiciously at the gazes on Wu Yin. Then she froze. She saw that the gazes on Wu Yin were filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. They wanted to kill Wu Yin with their gazes. Compared to the words they said about her, it was obviously much more dangerous. Burn you to death, winner in life, curse you, and so on. Shokouho Misaki slowly turned her head and looked at Wu Yan's helpless and speechless face. She couldn't help but smile. Seeing Shokouho Misaki's smile, the passers-by were also stunned. They couldn't move their eyes away from Shokouho Misaki. Seeing the infatuation in the eyes of the passers-by, Shokuho Misaki's smile became even sweeter. Even Wu Yin, who was always surrounded by flowers, couldn't help but take a few glances at her. See, don't think the worst of everything. Wu Yin rolled his eyes at Shokuho Misaki. Shokuho Misaki raised her hand to cover her mouth and laughed. Can I understand that you're comforting me? Her tone was very flirtatious. Her eyes were very flirtatious, and her actions were very flirtatious. The passers-by looked at Wu Yin with fire in their eyes. Wu Yin's mouth twitched, looking at Shokuho Misaki's obviously smiling eyes. Wu Yin kept telling himself in his heart, "Don't be angry, don't be angry. It's easy to hurt your body." Under the resentment of the passers-by and Shokuho Misaki's vengeful smile, Wu Yin couldn't bear it anymore. He reached out his finger and poked it. Shokuho Misaki quickly covered her forehead. It looked like she was hugging her head and squatting down, very cute. He pulled Shokuho Misaki's hand and pulled her to his side. Shokuho Misaki looked at Wu Yin, who was standing next to her. Even she didn't notice that the corner of her mouth had involuntarily pulled up into a smile. The two walked side by side, hand in hand. At this moment, it looked like they were on a date. If the date with Mikoto was filled with love and ripples, then the date with Shokuho Misaki was filled with sweetness and warmth at this moment. The two of them were just like a normal couple, going shopping together, eating snacks together, and playing games together. Even Shokuho Misaki had forgotten that she was dragged here because she couldn't back down. She was completely immersed in this experience that she had never experienced before. Towards the end, the smile on Shokuho Misaki's face never stopped. Her bell-like laughter kept ringing, attracting the attention of the passers-by. And it seems like a lot of people have noticed Shokuho Misaki's identity. They look like they've seen a ghost. In less than an hour, the news of Tokuwadai's queen, LV5's fifth place, Shokuho Misaki's date with a strange man, was posted on the internet. Other places don't know, but one thing is for sure, Tokuwadai is known by everyone, including a certain Babibli, Kuriko, and a perverted girl. Holding the phone, looking at the picture of Wu Yin and Shokuho Misaki holding hands and eating the same ice cream, a current flowed into the phone, causing it to smoke. The owner of the phone lowered her head with a gloomy expression. "Wani-sama." Kuriko's face stiffened. Looking at the volcano in front of her, she couldn't find the words to add insult to injury. Chapter 184. Walking on the street, Wu Yin held a bag in each of his hands. Suddenly, he felt a chill on his back, causing him to shiver violently. He looked around in bewilderment, as if trying to find the source of the danger. "What's wrong?" Shokuho Misaki, who was holding Wu Yin's hand, of course felt Wu Yin shiver. She held an ice cream in her hand and looked at Wu Yin in confusion. Wu Yin scratched his head, knocked on his forehead, and exhaled. "Nothing. It's probably an illusion." Shokuho Misaki rolled her eyes at Wu Yin. "You're being paranoid. Are you still afraid of those subordinates?" Wu Yin's face fell. He bitterly smiled. "Well, who knows how they knew we were here if I didn't run fast enough." Recalling the assortment of weapons in the hands of the supporters of the Queen's faction, even scissors, Wu Yin couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. "You're right. How did they know we were here?" Shokuho Misaki frowned. She's good at scheming, subconsciously trying to figure out the answer to these questions. Wu Yin shrugged. He laughed. "Who knows? Maybe not just them. Maybe the entire Tokuwadai knows we're here for a date." Wu Yin, who casually said this, got a bad premonition. Of course, the premonition came and went as quickly as it came. By the time Wu Yin reacted to it, it was already gone. Puzzled, Wu Yin touched his chest. Since he couldn't figure it out, he stopped thinking about it. He looked at Shokuho Misaki, who was deep in thought. He reached out and poked her forehead. Shokuho Misaki, who thought Wu Yin was going to poke her, almost screamed. "Don't think about it. Who cares what it is? It's not a life-threatening situation. Why think so much?" As he went on, his voice got weaker and weaker. Thinking about the tools in the hands of the girls that could humiliate him 100 times over, his mouth twitched. "No, maybe I should think about it. This is definitely a life-threatening situation." Hearing Wu Yan's words, Shokuho Misaki couldn't help but laugh. She was amused by Wu Yan's strange confession. Shokuho Misaki probably didn't know that she smiled more today than she did in her entire life. Of course, excluding the fake smile she used to deal with others. But after hearing Wu Yan's words, Shokuho Misaki didn't think too much about it. She licked the ice cream in her hand and put it in front of Wu Yan's mouth to let Wu Yan take a bite. They've done this countless times before. Looking at how intimate they are, if they were to tell others that this is their first meeting, out of 100 people, 100 would not believe it. Maybe even the people involved wouldn't understand why. Walking on the street, Wu Yan suddenly stopped and looked at a building. His eyes seemed to be fixed on that building. He looked up at the signboard on the building and didn't say anything. What's wrong? Since Wu Yan didn't move, Shokuho Misaki, who was holding his hand, couldn't move either. She followed Wu Yan's line of sight, and she froze. You're not thinking of going in, are you? Shokuho Misaki took a deep breath and asked with a smile. Of course, this smile was a bit forced. Wu Yan nodded without hesitation. His eyes almost lit up. His lips curled into a smile that made Shokuho Misaki tremble in fear. Looks pretty good. Let's go in and have some fun. Shokuho Misaki looked at Wu Yan speechlessly. She seriously looked at the sign that says indoor swimming pool, her eyes filled with contempt towards Wu Yan. Even if I don't use my ability, I can guess what you're thinking, Shokuho Misaki said. Wu Yan rubbed his nose and smiled. What's wrong with that? I don't even know how long it's been since I last swam. Shokuho Misaki moved her face closer to Wu Yan's and asked suspiciously, Are you sure your real goal is to swim? Wu Yan curled his lips and asked directly, Then are you going or not? I'm going. Shokuho Misaki puffed out her chest. This action undoubtedly made a well-developed part of her body even more dangerous, as if to emphasize it. Sitting on a stool, Wu Yan was wearing a pair of boxer shorts. Looking at the empty pool in front of him, he was speechless. Quoting Jisama's words, I don't want to squeeze in a pool with other men. She actually asked Wu Yan to book the entire swimming pool. Even though Wu Yan still has a lot of gold coins, but to book the entire swimming pool and disturb other people's enjoyment, Wu Yan of course wouldn't do it. But this place is quite big. There are quite a few swimming pools, so Wu Yan booked one of them. Wu Yan anxiously waited. Finally, the door to the changing room was pushed open. Jusama walked out from inside. The moment they came out, Wu Yan started rejoicing over the fact that he managed to book a swimming pool. If other guys were to see such a beautiful sight, I'm sure a lot of guys would break up tonight. Bikini. A very pure set of bikini. And it's leopard print. This leopard print bikini on Jisama, who is at least a grade D, has a beautiful figure, delicate face, long blonde hair, and golden starry eyes. It couldn't be more compatible. It even gave Wu Yan the idea that this set of bikini was created just for her. Seeing the admiration in Wu Yan's eyes, Shokuho Misaki couldn't help but feel a little proud. After all, when they met this morning, Wu Yan only praised her eyes, completely ignoring her charm. Now that Wu Yan is appreciating her beauty again, Shokuho Misaki felt a sense of satisfaction. Of course, it's more like she's secretly happy. Wu Yan seriously looked at Shokuho Misaki, finally fixing his eyes on the pair of big white rabbits in front of her chest. Shokuho Misaki not only didn't feel shy, she even puffed out her chest, her pair of big white rabbits bouncing up and down. Wu Yan's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Seeing Wu Yan's expression, Shokuho Misaki charmingly smiled and said in a sweet voice, Do you want to touch it? The cold and tender voice made Wu Yan's heart skip a beat. He immediately became vigilant. This chick is not that easy to take advantage of. She must be planning to play with me again. Thinking about this, Wu Yan didn't realize that he's already taken advantage of her more than enough. For example, eating the same ice cream as her. What are you up to now? Wu Yan looked at Shokuho Misaki with vigilance. He asked cautiously. His fearful look made Shokuho Misaki smile. In order to prevent Shokuho Misaki from coming up with any ideas, Wu Yan quickly said, Okay, don't talk so much. Let's go swim. After saying that, he directly pulled Shokuho Misaki's hand and walked towards a swimming pool, making Shokuho Misaki's little plan die in her stomach. She had no choice but to give up and be dragged into the water. Wu Yin, who was immersed in playing with the water, didn't know. In fact, while he was having fun, danger has already arrived. At the entrance of the indoor swimming pool, at this time there are two guests. Both of them are wearing Tokawadai school uniform. One is a girl with short brown hair. The other is a girl with pink twin ponytails. It's Makoto and Kuriko. That's right, Yin is here. After closing her eyes and sensing something, Makoto said with certainty. Her eyes flashed dangerously. Her forehead emitted a few sparks of electricity. All these signs are proof that Makoto's heart is not calm right now. Kuriko, who should be gloating and kicking Makoto when she's down, is cowering behind Makoto. Looking at Makoto's reaction, her body involuntarily trembled. After spending so much time with her sister, how could Kuriko not know that her sister is going to make a big scene today if she bumps into her? Thinking of the consequences, Kuriko laughed dryly and muttered, "Woo-woo." Kuriko doesn't dare to eat Wani-sama's whipping this time. Chapter 185. When Makoto strode into the indoor swimming pool, Wu Yin, who was happily swimming in the pool, suddenly froze and stood up from the pool. Why is she here? Wu Yin was stunned. If Makoto can sense his electromagnetic field with the same ability, Wu Yin can also sense Makoto's presence. In Wu Yin's perception, Makoto is here. What? Why is she here? Shokoho Misaki stopped swimming and looked at Wu Yin in confusion. Who's here? Why do you have such a big reaction? Looking at Shokoho Misaki's starry eyes, Wu Yin felt a headache coming on. If these two meet, it's not going to end well. Seeing Wu Yin's expression, Shokoho Misaki seemed to have understood something. She raised her eyebrows and said, "It can't be." Wu Yin laughed awkwardly. Just as his guilty laughter sounded, a burst of beep 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 sound entered their ears from not far away. Wu Yin froze. Looking at Wu Yin and Shokoho Misaki in swimsuits, Makoto lowered her head. Her bangs covered her eyes. Everything above her nose was shrouded in shadow. From time to time, her body would emit sparks of electricity. An aura like a volcano on the verge of eruption rose from her body. Kuriko tilted her body and looked at Wu Yin in the pool at a 45-degree angle. She looked at him with contempt and disdain, as if she was looking at a scum. Listening to the beep 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 sound, Wu Yin really didn't want to look back. But if he really did that, then he might really be a scum. He looked at Makoto helplessly. Misaka-san, I didn't expect to meet you here. What a coincidence. Wu Yin, who was about to say something, was interrupted by this sweet voice. Before he could react, he felt his arm being hugged tightly. A very soft and comfortable feeling spread through his body. By the time Wu Yin reacted, Shokoho Misaki was already lying on top of him. Wu Yin slapped his forehead and sighed. Shokoho Misaki must be using him to amuse Makoto. Sure enough, seeing Shokoho Misaki hugging Wu Yin's arm intimately, Makoto couldn't hold back anymore and exploded. You. Makoto's angry voice came out of her mouth. Following that, a bluish-white electric current shot towards the two in the pool in a blink of an eye. Shokoho Misaki didn't seem to be afraid of Makoto's attack. She seemed to have expected it. She buried her head tightly in Wu Yin's arm, planning to use him as a human shield. Wu Yin jumped in fright. This cannon really can generate electricity just like that. There was no warning at all. But Wu Yin could still see that Makoto's electric current wasn't even half of her full power. But Makoto seemed to have forgotten that Wu Yin and Shokoho Misaki were in the pool. Wu Yin raised his hand and waved at the electric current that Makoto shot at him. As if he was summoning something, the electric current accelerated, gathered together, and hit Wu Yin's hand before disappearing. Putting down his raised hand, Wu Yin looked at Makoto and said helplessly, "I say, Makoto, I know you're very angry right now, but you need to look at the situation before you lose your temper. Generate electricity. We're in the pool." Makoto was stunned for a moment before realizing that they were in the pool. She quickly waved her hand. "So sorry." After apologizing, Makoto was stunned again. "That's not right. She's here to criticize. Why did she have to apologize to the culprit? Still doing things your own way, Misaka-san." Shoko Misaki raised her head and used a familiar tone to greet Mikoto. But it wasn't hard to hear the provocation in her voice. Mikoto glared at Shoko Misaki. She knew that if she were to fight with Shoko Misaki, she wouldn't be able to win even if there were 100 of her. So she ignored Shoko Misaki and glared at Wu Yin. "Why are you with her?" Mikoto pointed at Shoko Misaki and shouted at Wu Yin. "She invited me." Wu Yan's answer was simple and concise. "She invited you?" Mikoto glanced at Shoko Misaki, who was covering her mouth with her hand, and turned to Wu Yin. She narrowed her eyes, and her tone turned unpleasant. "So, you went on a date with her? How did you know?" Wu Yin flinched as he looked at Mikoto in surprise. Mikoto raised her tightly clenched fist when she heard him. "How did I know?" "Of course I know. Not just me. The entire Tokuwadai knows that you're going on a date with the fifth. The entire Tokuwadai knows." Not only Wu Yin, even Shoko Misaki was stunned. They didn't expect that in less than half a day, the entire Tokuwadai knows about their relationship. "Yeah, everyone knows." Mikoto forced a smile, but her voice sounded like she was gnashing her teeth. She looked at Wu Yin with tears in her eyes. "Why are you going on a date with this woman?" "Misaka-san, how can you say that?" Shoko Misaki hugged Wu Yan's arm and rubbed her face against Wu Yan's hand. Mikoto was furious. "Isn't it normal to go on a date with your boyfriend?" "Boyfriend?" Mikoto yelled. She couldn't believe the two hugging each other. Kuriko, who was playing the background role, laughed. "That scum actually has a relationship with the person that Wani-sama hates the most. Now, that scum can't touch Wani-sama anymore." That's what she thought in her heart. "Young lady, touch what? You've already turned black." Seeing Mikoto's dazed expression, Shoko Misaki laughed happily. But then she felt a sharp pain in her forehead. Wu Yin retracted his hand that was about to poke Shoko Misaki's forehead and rolled his eyes at her. "Can you please do me a favor and stop provoking me?" Shoko Misaki grunted in dissatisfaction and turned her head away. But she didn't say anything else. She seemed to have heard Wu Yan's words. Mikoto, who was familiar with her, was surprised. "Well, Mikoto, you know her surname. Don't listen to her nonsense. Today is the first time we met." Wu Yan's explanation didn't make Mikoto feel better. Instead, it made her even angrier. She pointed at Wu Yan. Mikoto was so angry that her body trembled. She stomped her feet on the ground. "First time we met and you went on a date. You can't help it." Wu Yan pretended to be wronged. He acted like he was the biggest victim in the world. Instead of admitting his mistake, he blamed Mikoto. "Mikoto, you didn't want to go on a date with me. I can only find someone else. You scum want to go on a date with Wani-sama? Don't even think about it." Hearing Wu Yan's words, Kuriko suddenly jumped out and yelled. But before she could finish, Mikoto punched her on the ground. She went silent. Mikoto looked at Wu Yan. Her face was completely red. With Kuriko around, I couldn't find a chance. That's why you can't blame me," Wu Yan said. His ability to twist facts has reached the point of perfection. Mikoto gritted her teeth. She glanced at Shoko Misaki and then glared at Wu Yan. Even if you wanted to go on a date, you could have gone for Chuju. Even if there's no Chuju, you could have gone for Ikaros or Astria. Why her?" Shoko Misaki didn't mind Mikoto's words. Instead, she focused on something else. "Chuju? Ikaros? Astria? Who's that?" Shoko Misaki's last sentence was directed at Wu Yan. Obviously, she was asking him. Wu Yan shrugged and looked at Shoko Misaki. "Someone important. Someone very important." Shoko Misaki didn't ask anymore. She silently memorized the 3 names. With her means, it's not surprising that she can find out something. Once again, Shoko Misaki didn't notice that she was starting to pay attention to this stranger she just met today. Chapter 186. Perhaps it's because Wu Yin admitted to Shoko Misaki that he has a very important person in front of her. Mikoto's angry face calmed down a little. "In any case, you need to leave that woman. She's not as simple as you think. You won't even know when she's going to sell you off." Wu Yin, of course, understands why Mikoto would say that. Indeed, with Shoko Misaki's ability, if she really wants to sell someone off, The other party might even help her count the money. Mikoto is also reminding Wu Yin. With Shoko Misaki's methods, she's the one who eats the most. Mikoto has been dealt with by her many times. That's why she hates Shoko Misaki so much. It's just that it's not Mikoto's personality to speak ill of others in broad daylight. That's why she changed it to not simple. Actually, she's just worried that Wu Yin might be manipulated by her. Of course, Wu Yin won't be manipulated. Otherwise, he wouldn't have accepted Shoko Misaki's invitation to visit her territory despite knowing her background. The main reason is because he has the same ability as Mikoto, immune to Shoko Misaki's manipulation. That's why he dared to visit her. As the ace of Tokuwadai, Misaki-san's words are really rude. Shoko Misaki of course knew what Mikoto was trying to imply. After all, she was planning to control Wu Yin to attack Mikoto. That's why she invited Wu Yin to visit her. Mikoto didn't hold back. It's not like this is the first time you've used this method. Isn't this rude? Are you afraid of being scolded? I don't care what you plan to do, Shoko Misaki. If you dare to hurt the people around me, I won't forgive you. Shoko Misaki narrowed her starry eyes and looked back at Mikoto without a care. I'm the one who wants to scold you, Misaki-san. Don't you think it's rude to suddenly intrude on someone's date? Mikoto laughed. Her laughter was so sarcastic that it surprised Wu Yin. At the same time, he sighed. Mikoto would never act like this in front of person. One could imagine how much Mikoto hated Shoko Misaki. Get involved in your date? Didn't you hear it just now? Yin only went on a date with you because I didn't get to go on a date with him. You're just a backup. Misaka, since you've already said that you didn't get to go on a date with Yin, then please leave. Don't disturb our date. We still have to swim. You. Mikoto clenched her teeth and shouted. I can do it now. So she wanted to go on a date with Yin. The one who should leave is you. Oh, is that so? Shoko Misaki rested her face on Wu Yan's shoulder, rubbing her chest against Wu Yan's as she spoke seductively to Wu Yan. Hey, little Yin, what do you say? Let little Exine go on a date with you. What do you think? Wu Yan felt goosebumps all over his body. Even though Shoko Misaki was speaking so close to him, her warm scent was all over his face, and her body was rubbing against his body, making him feel all kinds of pleasure. But the nickname between Little Yin and Little Exine is really, don't mess around. Wu Yin glared at her. Even though Shoko Misaki is very seductive, Mikoto is his rightful partner. If he angered her, he would be in trouble. Unfortunately, Shoko Misaki seemed determined to fight with Mikoto for this time. Not only did she not listen to Wu Yin, she raised her arms and wrapped them around Wu Yan's neck, pressing her plump breasts against Wu Yan's chest. Little Yin, just say it. Shoko Misaki's voluptuous body wriggled in front of Wu Yin. She slowly moved her face closer, as if she was going to kiss him in the next second. It was very seductive. Shoko Misaki's seduction made Wu Yin explode with pleasure, but Mikoto wasn't. Seeing Shoko Misaki rubbing her chest, from Mikoto's perspective, against Wu Yan's body, Mikoto's temper flared up. She stood by the pool and shouted, Yin, say it. You want to go on a date with that woman? Or do you want to go on a date with me? No. When he saw my dating, Kuriko, the lump on the ground, seemed to be provoked by Mikoto's words. It raised its trembling hand, intending to protest, but all it got was a casual kick from Mikoto. It went silent again. Huh, who do you want to go on a date with? Hurry up and choose. Yin, little Yin. X2 looking at the two girls staring at him. Wu Yan's mouth twitched. He couldn't stay calm anymore. With tears streaming down his face, Wu Yin screamed his heart. What the hell is this? How is this possible? Under the urging of the two girls' demon eyes of death perception, Wu Yan's scalp went numb. He had no choice but to make a choice. If I really want to go on a date, of course I want to go with Mikoto. The two girls reacted differently. Shoko Misaki gnashed her teeth, as if she wasn't willing to give up. As for disappointment, well, I guess she's a bit disappointed. After all, Wu Yin left a mark in her heart. Mikoto, on the other hand, smiled happily, not only because she won against Shoko Misaki, but also because she didn't misjudge him. In the end, Wu Yin may be a playboy, but he's not the type to abandon women. Shokuho Misaki retracted her hand from Wu Yan's neck and said with dissatisfaction, I didn't expect your taste to be so bad. You'd rather choose that flat-chested girl than me. Mikoto's smile froze. She couldn't help it. Shokuho Misaki's words were too sharp. It hit her where it hurts the most. Wu Yin shrugged and smiled. Well, Mikoto is my woman. Of course I'd choose her. Hearing this, Mikoto's frozen face trembled again. A wave of redness spread from her neck to her entire face, and smoke almost came out. Oh, is that so? Shokuho Misaki paused for a moment, then returned to normal. She felt a little disappointed, but it was only for a moment. Wu Yin nodded calmly. Then he laughed a little weirdly. Also, dating with Mikoto, you could do a lot of interesting activities. Yin. How could Mikoto not know what Wu Yin is talking about with that weird laugh, and those words that seem to have a deeper meaning? She's experienced it herself. Recalling their last date, the scene at the cinema, Mikoto blushed and stuttered. Her mouth opened and closed, but she couldn't say anything. Shokuho Misaki isn't a simple-minded person, so of course she knew what Wu Yin was referring to. In addition to Mikoto's reaction, Shokuho Misaki was stunned. You guys, have you already? Shokuho Misaki's meaning was obvious. She was asking if Wu Yin and Mikoto had already done it. No. That's not it. Mikoto took 2 steps back. Smoke was coming out of her head. She glared at Wu Yin, cursing in her heart. This bastard, he actually said it out loud. So embarrassing. Shokuho Misaki looked at Mikoto's red face in disbelief, then looked at Wu Yin. A thick sense of jealousy rose from her heart. She still remembers how Wu Yin stood up for Misaka Mikoto in front of her, claiming that Mikoto wouldn't participate in her game, saying that her stage isn't here. She still remembers how everyone used to hate her eyes, seeing her as a monster. But from Wu Yin's mouth, they became a pair of beautiful eyes. She still remembers how Wu Yin helped her to correct her point of view towards the people who gave her pointers. He also helped her to correct her point of view. She still remembers holding hands with Wu Yin, eating the same ice cream with Wu Yin, laughing together, playing together. Today, for Shokuho Misaki, is no doubt different. But the person who made all of this happen is the other half of Mikoto, the person she thought was her rival. Really, all the beautiful things will leave me. While thinking so, Shokuho Misaki looked at the flustered Mikoto with a flushed face. She gritted her teeth and grumbled in dissatisfaction. Such a bland taste. Yet you like this body. Am I not as good as her? Chapter 187. On the way back to Tokuwadai, Wu Yin looked at the 2 girls who completely occupied his arms and hugged him tightly. He sighed as if he had a headache. One of his arms was being held by Mikoto. One side of her face was red as she glared at Wu Yan's other arm. As for the other side, he was being held by Shokuho Misaki. Compared to Mikoto, who was glaring at him and blushing, Shokuho Misaki's expression was filled with sweetness. She had a smile on her face as she rested her head on Wu Yan's shoulder. She looked very happy, but Wu Yan knew that there was a 99% chance that she was faking it. Feeling the soft bodies of the 2 girls while enduring the stares of the passers-by, Wu Yan's current situation proved that he was in pain but happy at the same time. As for who he's going on a date with, in the end, it's just a matter of course. Although he really wants to go on another passionate date with Mikoto, he's still dating Shokuho Misaki. How can he just abandon a girl he just went on a date with and go on a date with another girl? How can he do that? In the end, the date was gone and the swimming plan was ruined. Of course, Wu Yin was satisfied. After all, his desire to see Jusama in a swimsuit was fulfilled. It's just that, for some reason, Jusama kept using him as a public display of affection in front of Mikoto. It's as if she's trying to steal Mikoto's love away from her. Wu Yin is both speechless and enjoying it at the same time. However, he had to admit that Her Majesty Queen's plan was very successful. Just look at Sis-Cannon's performance. Normally, Mikoto would at most hold his hand in public. She would never wrap her arms around his hand intimately, of course. The one who benefited in the end was still Wu Yin. All right, we're here. Hurry up and let go. Seeing the Tokuwadai dormitory appear in front of them, Wu Yin helplessly said to the two girls who were still in a confrontation. Along the way, Wu Yan's hands were almost numb. Mikoto wanted to let go of Shokuho Misaki's hand, but when she saw that Shokuho Misaki didn't let go, she stopped and shouted at Shokuho Misaki, "Hey, did you not hear? Let go of me." Not only did Shokuho Misaki not let go, she hugged him even tighter, causing Wu Yan's hand to sink in her pair of plump breasts. "Misaka, classmate, Xiaoyan also told you to let go, so hurry up and let go. Let go first," Mikoto said childishly. Childishly was a good way to describe her. At this point in time, there was no need to argue about who should let go first. At least, Wu Yin felt that she was too weak. "Since Misaka, classmate, doesn't want to let go, then I don't mind either," Shokuho Misaki said with a got lucky expression. "Actually, the one who got lucky is the one you hug tighter and tighter." Looking at the shameless Shokuho Misaki, Mikoto felt as if a blue and white electric current flashed across her forehead. She also tightened her arms and shouted, "Hugging someone else's boyfriend's hand, don't you have any sense of shame? Era, is Misaka, classmate, declaring your sovereignty?" Shokuho Misaki giggled. She pointed out, "You were the one who told your boyfriend to go on dates with Hanajuku, Ikaros, Astria, and so on, so she still remembers that." Mikoto was also shocked. Her expression changed. She fidgeted for a while and then stomped her feet. They're different. What's different?" Seeing that Mikoto didn't want to reveal any information about the three girls, Shokuho Misaki's eyes flashed with disappointment. She smiled and said, "Since Misaka, classmate, allows your boyfriend to go on dates with other girls, then it's the same with me." "It's not the same." "Then what's the difference?" Mikoto started stammering. In the end, she could only yell out, "Anyway, it's different. Let go of me." "No, hurry up and let go." "I'm not letting go." Seeing the two beauties bickering with each other, and the reason is because of him, Wu Yin felt a wave of pleasure in his heart, but soon his mouth started twitching. Didn't they notice that the noise below their dorm is getting a little loud? What Mikoto and Shokuho Misaki didn't notice is that the windows on every floor of Tokuwadai's dorm are already open. Countless girls in Tokuwadai's school uniform are crowding around the windows, looking down at Mikoto and Shokuho Misaki, who are intimately hugging the same guy and arguing loudly about something. They all looked like they saw a ghost, their eyes wide open. "Am I seeing things?" One of the girls from Tokuwadai rubbed her eyes, as if trying to dispel the illusion in front of her. She rubbed her eyes with all her might. "I think I'm seeing things." Another girl standing next to her said calmly, "She's different from the girl who tried to dispel the illusion. She's convinced that everything in front of her is an illusion, of course. It's not just them." The other girls from Tokuwadai also reacted from the series of events. They all looked at each other in disbelief. "Isn't that Misaka-sama and Shokuho-sama?" "Yeah, what are they doing? Seems like they're fighting over who should let go of that guy first." "That's impossible. Misaka-sama, Shokuho-sama are hugging the same guy. This can't be real. Who's that guy? Could it be the second or first among the LV5 players? He actually managed to win the hearts of our Tokuwadai's Electric Princess and Shokuho Queen." As more and more people started discussing, the voices got louder and louder. Gradually, the whispers turned into loud noises, echoing throughout the entire Tokuwadai dormitory. It also rang in the ears of the two girls who were arguing. The discussion got louder and louder until it reached the ears of the two girls. The two girls' argument got quieter and quieter until it was negligible. When they turned to look at the direction of the dormitory, the two girls froze at the same time. After regaining her senses, Mikoto reflexively let go of Wu Yan's hand. Shokuho Misaki, on the other hand, regained her composure after seeing the scene in Tokuwadai dormitory. She openly hugged Wu Yan's hand. After seeing Mikoto let go, she showed a victorious smile. Mikoto gritted her teeth, listening to the discussion. Her face started to redden. In the end, she gave up and shouted, "Let go." This time, Shokuho Misaki was obedient. She naturally let go of Wu Yan's hand. Her calm demeanor was a stark contrast to the flustered Mikoto. This made Wu Yin sigh. But soon his expression started to become unnatural. If that guy can win the hearts of Misaka-sama and Shoko-sama, what right does he have? That's right, he's not handsome, and he doesn't look like he's LVL 5. I really don't know why the two girls are arguing over him. I think he used despicable means to win their hearts. Many men are like this, even in TV dramas. Then aren't Misaka-sama and Shoko-sama in danger? No, we have to save Misaka-sama and Shoko-sama. We have to destroy that bastard. Yes, we have to come up with a plan. We have to do it secretly. The more Wu Yin listened, the more cold sweat poured down his back. Seeing the Tokuwadai girls about to rush down, he quickly said to the two girls, "Since you're here, I'll take my leave first, that's all." Without waiting for the two girls to reply, he left a trail of smoke behind him and disappeared without a trace. The two girls froze for a bit before they came to their senses. They looked at each other before Mikoto snorted and left. Shoko Misaki stood there looking at Wu Yan's back as he left. Then, she looked at Mikoto, who just entered the dormitory. Her lips curled into a smile as she mumbled to herself. "We will meet again on the other side, by the pool of an indoor swimming pool." A certain black and white ponytail girl was lying on the ground. Her eyes rolled back. Her body twitched from time to time. She didn't struggle for a long time. She had been completely forgotten by them. Chapter 188. Without using his strength, Wu Yin ran as fast as he could and left the Tokuwadai dormitory that was no different from hell to him now, until he could no longer see a corner of the Tokuwadai dormitory. Wu Yin slowly stopped running and looked back. After confirming that no one was chasing him, Wu Yin sighed in relief and wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. When he saw Super Cannon and Majin before, Wu Yin thought that the girls in Tokuwadai should be the kind of girls from rich families. After all, during the summer season, the Tokuwadai girls who dressed up as maids were all as soft as water. After today, Wu Yin will no longer think so. The girls in Tokuwadai are not water. They are clearly wolves and tigers. Recalling Shokuho Misaki's support team and the dangerous words of the girls in the Tokuwadai dormitory, Wu Yan's body trembled. He swore that if there is no reason, he will never go there again. It seems that the only girls in Tokuwadai are probably those two who follow after marriage, Fufu Wanbin and Wan Nei Shirbao. Thinking of this, Wu Yin couldn't help but smile bitterly. Then he walked in the direction of his home, but soon his footsteps paused. Of course, it was only for a moment, and then he stepped out unnoticed and walked back home as if nothing happened. With his hand behind his head, Wu Yin casually moved his feet. If one were to look closely, they would notice that Wu Yin is purposely avoiding places with a lot of people. He's trying his best to go to places with less people. With Wu Yan's deliberate actions, the surrounding pedestrians became fewer and fewer. In the end, there were not many pedestrians around. At this time, in the corner behind Wu Yin, two people wearing black suits and sunglasses, dressed like gangsters, quickly caught up with Wu Yin and stood in front of him, blocking his way. Seeing these two people, Wu Yin took 2 steps back with a little fear on his face, but he pretended to be calm and said, "What are you doing? Robbing? Sorry, I don't have money." The two people in black suits looked at each other, then nodded. One of them took a few steps forward and said to Wu Yin in a low voice, "Someone wants to see you. Can you come with us?" Although it sounded like he was asking for Wu Yan's opinion, looking at his tough face and the other person's hand that had already reached into his clothes, they were going to use force. Wu Yan's eyes narrowed imperceptibly, then returned to normal. He looked at the two people in black suits with fear and said timidly, If someone wants to see me, wouldn't they come directly to me?" Unfortunately, these two people in black seemed like they didn't intend to talk to Wu Yin. They directly reached out their hands and planned to take Wu Yin. Seeing this, Wu Yan's eyes flashed a cold light. He clenched his hands slightly, and a trace of electric current flowed slightly between his 2 fingers. It was so small that there was no sound or light. But soon, Wu Yin was stunned again. The electric current on his fingers was pinched out by him and disappeared. "Wait a minute." A sudden voice sounded behind Wu Yin, but it made the two people in black suits obediently stop their movements. Wu Yin quickly pretended to be panicked and turned his head to look. A middle-aged man in a white coat, who looked like a doctor and a scholar, stood not far from Wu Yin and others. He had a pair of glasses on his face, and he looked like a refined scum. Wu Yin wanted to punch him. However, Wu Yin still pretended to be panicked and looked at him calmly. The middle-aged man seemed to be very satisfied with Wu Yan's expression. He pushed the glasses on his face and said with a smile, "How can you be so rude to our important guests?" Although Wu Yin wanted to say that they were the ones who looked for him, but looking at that incomparably annoying face, Wu Yin really couldn't raise such a thought. He could only pretend again. "Who are you?" "Don't be nervous, young man." The middle-aged man smiled at Wu Yin in a friendly manner. Of course, this friendliness was what he thought. Then he slowly walked towards Wu Yin and waved to the two people in black suits. They retreated and looked around vigilantly. "You haven't answered my question yet. Who are you? And why are you looking for me?" Wu Yin looked at the middle-aged man with an expression of bullying the weak and fearing the strong. His voice trembled a little as he asked. Hearing this, the middle-aged man smiled mysteriously and said earnestly, "Young man, who are we? It's better if you don't know. You should know that knowing too much is not a good thing." Listening to the middle-aged man's mysterious tone, Wu Yan's heart trembled. He couldn't help but directly cut down the middle-aged man with a sword. "Who are you trying to fool by pretending to be like this?" This was what Wu Yan, who was now planning to become the best actor, was thinking in his heart. The middle-aged man patted Wu Yan's shoulder and said to Wu Yan in a kind tone, "So you'd better not ask who we are. However, we can answer your other question." After that, the middle-aged man laughed and said to Wu Yan, "We came to find you because we need your help with something. Help?" Wu Yan was stunned. This time, it wasn't an act. He was really stunned. He really couldn't think of anything to help this guy who wasn't close to his uncle and grandmother. "Yes. Help." The middle-aged man glanced at Wu Yan and then turned to look behind him. "Young man, we've observed you. From the looks of it, you seem to be very familiar with Tokuwadai's trump card, Railgun Misaka Mikoto." Wu Yan's pupils constricted as he looked at the middle-aged man in front of him. A murderous glint flashed across his eyes. Realizing that things weren't as simple as they seemed, Wu Yan quickly lowered his head to hide the look in his eyes. When the middle-aged man said this, Wu Yan had a pretty good idea as to why he came looking for him. In the middle-aged man's eyes, Wu Yan's reaction was probably due to the fact that his whereabouts were known to others. After all, this guy in front of him was just a thug. "Young man, don't be afraid. We won't do anything to you," the middle-aged man said with a smile, as if he already had victory in his hands. "As long as you do us a small favor, it'll be fine. In other words, if he doesn't help, he doesn't know what will happen to him. Help? What favor?" Wu Yan's face was filled with "I'm scared, come and bully me" look. The middle-aged man heard Wu Yan's words and smiled. He took out a syringe and handed it to Wu Yan. "You seem to be very familiar with number 3, even close. This favor won't be too hard for you. You just have to help us draw some of number 3's blood. How about that?" As expected. "Really? Just that? You won't make things difficult for me?" Wu Yan hesitated. Of course, the other meaning was that he was tempted. Seeing this, the middle-aged man smiled. "Of course, as long as you help us, not only will we not make things difficult for you, we'll even give you enough money to live on for the rest of your life." The middle-aged man took out a piece of paper and handed it to Wu Yan along with the syringe. "After you complete the task, call this number and contact us. When the time comes, someone will come and collect the items and give you the money you want." After Wu Yan took it, the middle-aged man pushed his glasses and smiled. "Then, I wish us a happy cooperation." He didn't wait for Wu Yan's reply before he walked away on his own, bringing the two men in black with him. Until they disappeared from his sight, Wu Yan's expression completely disappeared. He looked at the syringe in his hand, and with a burst of electricity, he blasted the syringe into ashes. "If it wasn't for the fact that I wanted to buy more time, I would have killed that guy with my sword," Wu Yan said with regret. To be honest, he was disgusted. With a sigh, Wu Yan looked towards the direction of Tokuwadai. Looks like Alistair is planning to make a move on Mikoto. Before that, I hope the matter with my sisters can be resolved. Chapter 189. Academy City, School District 7, Wu Yan's home. In the bathroom, Wu Yan laid in the bathtub, allowing the water to splash over his body as he bathed himself. Rubbing the biocontainment device that he would wear even when taking a bath, Wu Yan sighed. He raised his head and washed his face with a troubled look. As more and more sisters are saved by him, it's getting harder and harder to save the rest. Many nights, Wu Yan would return empty-handed after going to the research facility where the sisters are kept. Tonight is also a night where he returned empty-handed, flinging the water off his face. He stared at the biocontainment device on his wrist. Wu Yan couldn't help but rub his hand against it as he mumbled, "Just a little more." Suddenly, the bathroom door opened and a figure walked in, startling Wu Yan. "Who is it?" Wu Yan looked over. Wu Yan's eyes almost popped out of their sockets when he saw who it was. Ikaros. It's no wonder Wu Yan was surprised. He was in the shower, and Ikaros's current appearance is another reason. She was completely naked, with only a towel barely covering the area below her chest and the area above her thighs. Ikaros was clutching the edge of the towel in front of her. Her hair that was originally tied into two ponytails had already been let down, and her pretty face was flushed red. She's extremely seductive. Wu Yan stared at Ikaros in disbelief. He didn't expect Ikaros to appear in front of him like this in the middle of the night. Doesn't she know he's in there? Ikaros, you're not asleep yet? Wu Yan gulped and tried to change the topic. It's normal for him to ask this, since Wu Yan just came back from the research facility where the sisters are kept. It's already midnight, and Chuju and Astria are already asleep. Master, Ikaros is also embarrassed. Her usually expressionless face is now blushing. He knows that Ikaros's emotions aren't as slow as they used to be, but this look of hers almost blinded him. Afraid he'll turn into a wolf, Wu Yan turned his head and stuttered. Ikaros, do you want to take a shower? Just wait a little longer, I'll be done soon. And no, Ikaros whispered so softly that if there's any noise in the room, you won't be able to hear it. Ikaros, I'm here to look for Master. Look for me? Wu Yan tilted his head and said helplessly, Even if you want to look for me, you have to wait until I'm out. Ikaros lowered her head. In the misty bathroom, her skin looked like it was covered by a veil. Wu Yan couldn't help but stare at her. But Ikaros took 2 deep breaths and raised her red face. She said shyly but firmly, But Ikaros wants Master to be happy. Yan almost fell head first into the bathtub. When Ikaros said, happy, he's pretty sure it's not just any ordinary happiness. Combined with their previous conversation and Ikaros' current state, Wu Yan finally understood why Ikaros would appear here in the middle of the night. Ikaros. Wu Yan exhaled slowly to calm his heart. He smiled bitterly. Why now? Ikaros looked a little disappointed. Wu Yan was sure she was really disappointed. Because Master once said that he wanted Ikaros to do happy things for Master, but Master never did. Wu Yan understood. Indeed, it's been a while since he said he wanted to have fun with Ikaros. Wu Yan also didn't do anything. After all, there's still the president at home. Could it be that Ikaros knew what he was worried about and chose to come here in the middle of the night when Chuju was asleep? Wu Yan's heart fluttered. The so-called right time, right place, right people, there's nothing more suitable than now. Seeing Wu Yan stunned, Ikaros lowered her head again. Her face was full of disappointment. If this expression appeared on the face of the old Ikaros, it'd be inconceivable. Master, you don't like it? Ikaros mumbled. Her tone carried an indescribable sense of loss. Wu Yan felt a stab of pain in his heart when he heard that. He quickly replied, I like it. Of course I like it. Why wouldn't I like Ikaros? Master. Ikaros's eyes flashed with joy. She looked up at Wu Yan with anticipation. Then, Master, can I? Hearing Ikaros's words, Wu Yan felt like his heart was flying away. Even his body started to float. Once upon a time, girls never came to his door. He had to look for them himself, and he wasn't sure if he could find them. Sizing up Icaros's body, he didn't push her down, but he's touched her body countless times. Wu Yan's mouth started to dry up. Icaros is too tempting. Wu Yan stood up from the bathtub. Icaros was a little surprised. She blushed as she looked at Wu Yan approaching her. Her heart started to pound. This strange state of the energy furnace only appears when she's facing her master. Icaros didn't know if it's malfunctioning or not, but she didn't hate it. In this short amount of time, Wu Yan was already in front of Icaros. He raised his hand and rubbed it against her smooth little face. Seeing Icaros's shy look, Wu Yan felt a wave of satisfaction. Of course, this satisfaction quickly turned into dissatisfaction. 5 fingers brushing against Icaros's cheeks, Wu Yan smiled and his hand slowly moved down. As Wu Yan's hand got closer and closer to her chest, Icaros's heart started to beat faster. She quickly closed her eyes and enjoyed the foreplay before the transformation. Finally, Wu Yan's hand reached its destination. He lightly pressed on Icaros's ample bosom, and his hand sank in. His hand even slipped and ended up between Icaros's pair of white bunnies and got caught between them. Ew! Icaros bit her lips. She didn't know why, but a strong thought made her want to stop herself from making any sound with one hand sliding between her 2 white bunnies. Wu Yan sighed. So smooth. Icaros turned her head away. She heard Wu Yan's voice and felt a little shy. This made Wu Yan laugh happily and evilly. Wu Yan kept repeating the action of caressing her. He felt like even if he caressed her for the rest of his life, he wouldn't be satisfied. He kept caressing her until he couldn't satisfy himself with one hand. Then, he raised his other hand and cupped Icaros's twin peaks. He started massaging them with either heavy or light strokes. Master! Under Wu Yan's actions, Icaros's skin got redder and redder. She opened her eyes. Her indigo eyes rippled like water, telling Wu Yan that Icaros is aroused. With a heavy squeeze, his hand sunk into Icaros's white bunnies. Icaros couldn't help but raise her head and let out an ah. Her voice was very pleasant to the ears. Wu Yan slid one of his hands behind Icaros and pulled her into his embrace. Then, as if his hand lost its center of gravity, it slid downwards. Icaros pressed both her hands on her master's chest, feeling her upper and lower body under Wu Yan's control. She opened her red lips and panted softly. From time to time, she would let out a whimper, venting the sensations in her body. Wu Yan's hands moved up and down, one hand rubbing Icaros's white bunnies, the other hand drawing circles on Icaros's smooth buttocks. Then, he started to knead as well. As time passed, Wu Yan took a deep breath and moved his hand to the towel on Icaros's body. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.